What's up, guys? It is Modern Craftsman Monday, and this week we have... John, where's your Monday?
You keep missing it, man.
I thought you were doing like an
next week.
All right,
Andrew from...
Should we restart?
You came in hot right there. You
Who,
were
me?
Like, yeah, you were like on times 2.
I drank coffee.
Okay, Andrew.
Guys, we have Mr. Justin Fink this week from Fine Homebuilding.
New father.
Live. New father. 8-week-old, right?
He gets real with the whole magazine.
Yeah, I was hoping he would dig into, I don't want to use the word analytics, but like the behind the scenes and why, we've all talked about it, why there's so much why are there so many ads in a magazine, and is the magazine gonna die, and what is that gonna do to our industry, and is it
is print gonna die?
Right. So, and he went, yeah, he dug into all of that stuff and then some. So this was a good one.
He's awesome.
How's the baby?
Baby's good. Had to do a little negotiating to get Aaron to take over while I record this. Do
we have a hard stop now?
You guys owe her big time. No, she's just starting back at work today. It's the first day back, so she's gonna be 8 weeks.
Oh wow!
She hates you.
Yeah. So
she's like, get me out of the house.
Yeah. Well, today she had to go to the doctor today, and it was the first time that she's left the house without the baby. And I was like, oh, really? Because I've gone out a bunch of times. But
don't tell her that.
and I was like, so how does it feel? And she's like, it feels like I've lost a limb.
Right.
But
what
yeah,
a weird time to have a baby too. Like many of Meg's friends are due right now, and it's like this is just like next level. It's like you have a baby and you're actually trapped home, like really trapped home.
So I got to tell you how this unfolded though, because it's kind of funny. It's so she was due. She ended up going into labor like 3 weeks early.
It's your baby, right?
It's my baby, Tyler. Yes. And
make sure everyone understands.
I think. So she has a doctor's appointment. They have like more and more doctor's appointments as you get closer to your due date, right? You got to check in. So we go down there, and this COVID stuff is starting to unfold. The first time it was like really hitting was actually I was on my way to shoot some photos at one of Tyler's projects, and there was a whole. Trump did his whole initial press conference, and we were kind of like, well, what the hell's going on? What is this thing? We go home a few weeks. I guess that was February, Tyler?
Yeah.
And so March rolls around, and I'm going, you know what? Let's just see if we can get I'm like real Tommy Tough Nuts here. I'm like, we're going to go to the doctor. I'm going to tell that doctor that they're going to induce you because we don't want to be in the hospital when this whole thing lands. We want to be in and out of there before it gets bad. So I go into the doctor's office. They're like, yeah, we're not doing that. Like you got to wait until at least 39 weeks before we're going to even talk about that. And I'm driving home with her, and I'm all pissed off. Like, I don't want to go to the hospital and deal with this stuff, be stuck in there for a week while everyone's sick, and the emergency room's gross, and we didn't know what was going to happen. Right, it was early on. So we get home, and we get in the house. She's like, I don't feel good. I'm going to go take a nap. She gets up like 2 hours later, and her water breaks. And we go to the hospital that night, and then it's like 36 hours of labor. But there was no escape from it. It was like brand new for all the nurses and doctors. So like, you're in that room, you guys know, you've had the kids, you're in the room, you're kind of, you're waiting. You're like, how many centimeters, blah, blah. And you step out of the room, you're like, I'm going to go get a coffee or whatever. And you just need a break. You go down the hallway and you go back to the nurse's station. They're all talking about COVID. They're all freaking out. So it's like, I'm trying to focus on having a baby in here. I don't know what the hell's going to happen with this virus. And then, in the middle, like right after she delivers, there's complications. He had a brain bleed and some breathing problems. So it's straight up to the NICU. And I didn't realize this until later, but I was so freaked out, so anxious about that I just put it all into this virus. So I was just like sitting there. We couldn't do anything. The baby's in the NICU. She's still recovering, so we're kind of checked in for a few days. The maternity ward is practically a ghost town because they sent everybody home that was able to move. And so we're like, what is happening? They won't let any visitors into the hospital, so we're totally isolated. And I'm just sitting there like Googling terrifying stuff on my phone. And then eventually we got the all clear that he was okay. But it was a really surreal experience to kind of like, it unfolded while we were at ground zero at Yale New Haven Hospital in Connecticut, where it was like, you knew if it was going to go down, it was going to go down there because it was like the biggest hospital in Connecticut. And, but anyway, so yeah, it's amazing how fast you adapt, right? Like,
oh yeah,
we didn't, I've never had, this is our first baby. So and as Erin says, it's our one child, as she puts it. So I guess we're not having any more, but, you don't know any better. So it's just like, well, this is normal. I don't know. I mean, we FaceTime my parents and her parents, and we went over and visited one time and kept 10 feet apart with masks on while they, looked at the baby. It was like, and the whole magazine operation just shifted to remote. So
obviously not going to have a podcast about the whole the baby the whole time, but congratulations to you guys.
Thank you.
And glad things are good. But speaking of the magazine, so take us, like, I want to know.
He got off that baby topic real fast, huh?
Yeah. Well, he led right up to it. I was gonna let it roll for a while, and he was like, and then the magazine thing shifted. Yeah. All right, let's roll into it. All right, let's go. No, I mean, you've been with Fine Homebuilding for 16 years now. 16
years. Yeah, I started as an intern. I was an English major at UConn. And, you get to senior year in college and everybody starts to do that thing where they're all freaking out about, oh my God, what are we going to do when we graduate? Like all the kids from like, the accounting department and they all had jobs, right? Because it's like they get recruited right out of college, multiple big staffing fairs. For an English major like me, and, I didn't know what I wanted to do with it. It was just the thing that I was okay at. I started out as a business major, took like statistics and accounting, and just realized real quick, holy cow, I am terrible at this. I am not going to be a business major, because I had these big dreams of being like I wanted to be that guy on writing like really clever commercials for some product. Like I love when you see the commercials and it's like that classic sales pitch and you're like, damn it, that's genius. Like the Super Bowl commercials. And like, I wanted to do that kind of stuff. So I wanted to get into marketing, but I was just terrible at the business end of things. So anyway, I knew it was a good decision to switch because I didn't have to talk to anybody about it. I was just like, woke up. I was like, you know what? I'm switching. I'm done. Went down to the administrative offices, switched to English major, and then told everybody in my family after. Wait, hold
on. You kind of skipped over that. So you were bad at business. Well, you were bad at business, but it sounds like you wanted to be in marketing. Why did you go from business to literature, not business to marketing?
Well, marketing was all lumped under the business category.
So you went into business thinking you would do Super Bowl commercials.
Well, that's a little bit of a leap, but I mean, it was, I wasn't actually even technically in the business school. It was like, you're on track to be in it. But I just quickly realized, like, I'm not hanging with this crowd. People are sleeping through this class that I'm like struggling to do good in. And I was never a good student. I mean, I was, B's and C's, mostly C's in school, even when I tried my hardest. It's just like, I wasn't, you could give that whole I'm a bad test taker thing, whatever it is, but it was just never my thing. So anyway, I switched to English, and I didn't know what I wanted to do with it, but I wasn't really worried. Everybody's freaking out, like, what are we going to do when we graduate? They'd hear you're an English major, and it's like, you're going to be an English teacher, right? And so eventually I would just go, yes, like, that's what I'm going to do, because I didn't know. But around that same time, I was kind of getting into woodworking, and I was playing around with some projects, just little crappy stuff. Actually, John, you'd appreciate this because I was working at the rink at UConn. I was the guy in between periods of the game that would move the nets for the Zamboni and blow the horn when the home team scores a goal and that kind of stuff. Change the blades on Zamboni at the last minute, that kind of stuff.
That's a crazy job.
It was awesome.
That change in the blade is like the biggest razor blade you've ever seen.
I think it was, it's like what? Well, we had an Olympia, not a Zamboni. So it was, I want to say like 6 or 8 feet wide.
Yeah, it's a crazy blade.
And it's like razor sharp. And if you don't tighten it in exactly the right pattern, it'll leave divots in the ice. And the manager of the ice arena was such a prick. So like he was such a typical like hockey bro who just was so mad all the time. So he hated me. And that was the first job I ever had, honestly, that people didn't really like what I was bringing to the table. I felt like, wow, I'm working my ass off and nobody cares. Like I'm still the low man who's like, you know, yeah, whatever, go mop something. I just couldn't break through. But anyway, that's an aside. So the long story short is they had all these broken hockey sticks there. Like they would just store them, like, you know. And so I took a whole bundle of them home and I made a coffee table out of them. And that was like, as stupid as it sounds, that was like the first real woodworking project I made, which I since stupidly left out by a dumpster when I moved out of some apartment or other.
John, don't you have a hockey stick coffee table?
I got 2 in my house. I got one in my kid's loft, and I just cleaned out the shop and I found another one. Actually, the second one is.
Where'd you find it?
You forgot you had
the
it?
dorm room?
No, I didn't know I had it still in the garage. Like I have there's a couple bookcases. No, the second one I found in the garage it's got a whole bunch of tools on it, but I did it where it's crisscross hockey sticks underneath to hold up the legs, to create the legs. Framed it on plywood out of hockey sticks, and then I put beer bottle caps in like a pattern, and then I put resin over the whole top. So it's the strangest thing. Wow. I don't know what the connection is.
Yeah.
And I was like, when I did it, I was like 16. So I know I went to a bar and asked them for all their caps because I wouldn't drink. So it was like, I literally have a Rolling Rocks like bucket of caps that I went through. It's the strangest thing.
This manager's thing was, I don't remember what the hockey stick was back then. It was a Bauer something, and it was black and red, and that was like his stick. So he would cull through all the piles and save just those so he could make it all the same. Yeah. And I just took the other stuff. So anyway, I was kind of catching this bug, and I was doing little projects, like little things around the house, whatever I could scrap together with all the crappiest tools. And so I saw this internship pop open for Fine Woodworking Magazine, which is, if people don't know, it's like our sister magazine. It's focused on furniture making. So I applied to that.
Not the brother magazine.
Not it's sister magazine. Yeah, it's our little bitch sister. So no, I love Fine Woodworking. So I applied there.
You could tell.
I applied there, and they passed they're like, this guy's not for us, but they passed my resume down the hall, and so I get
why weren't you for them?
I don't know.
There's no way you've been there 16 years and you've never said, "Hey, why did you pass?"
Nick, they've offered me a job since then, so it's not.
Since then, I know, but I wonder. All right, this kid's an English lit major. They're looking for an intern.
They must have already had somebody.
And they were like, no, send them to Fine Homebuilding.
I don't even know if they had an intern that year, so maybe they just didn't have one. I'm not sure. Okay. So I had to basically talk my way through the internship phone call, and I get in there. I get through the phone interview, and they're like, "Do you know building?" And at that point, I'm like, "Oh yeah, like I built a deck with my dad. I've done all this stuff, you know, because my dad, we didn't have money growing up, so we did all the stuff on the house that we had to do. But my dad hated projects; like they just stressed him out. He didn't want to deal with that stuff. He thought he was bad at it, so he hated it.
Was he bad at
it? He's impatient. Like he's a lot of swearing, a lot of like, you know, he doesn't want to spend any money. So it's like, you know, the jar of 25 different screws all mixed together on the same bench that we put in. It's just like, you're just, oh my God, like just buy $5 of screws that match. Why are we not doing this? And he's still like that. It's just, he's never going to change. But, so I kind of got my foot in the door, and I went in for the interview, and I said, look, if you hire me for this internship, I'm never going to leave. Like I was out of college. This was a summer internship. And I said, I'm just never going to leave. And so they hired me as an intern, and then they gave me a job after that. And I was so psyched that I ended up there instead of over at woodworking, because I just couldn't get enough. So I would just, this was back in the days when there was a big booming book business. A lot of B's there, sorry. So Taunton had like this big, robust Taunton Press is the parent company to Fine Homebuilding, Fine Woodworking. They had a lot of book titles, and we used to have this big warehouse that since have offloaded. That had like Home Depot or Lowe's style metal shelving in it, just like pallets of books. And down at the ground floor under all these racks, there was what they called the hurt books. And it was like stuff that had a slight misprint or a tear in the cover or whatever. And they'd just throw them all in there. And all the employees could go in and just take whatever they wanted. So I would go up there and I would take stacks like from my hands up, stacked up to my chin whenever I could go and just bring them all home. And then just like, I seriously was that kid in bed at night reading like Renovation second edition, like cover to cover, going, I want to know everything there is to know. And I couldn't. It was like insatiable. Like it made sense to me. And having been a kid that didn't do great in school, building just sort of made sense. Like I couldn't understand why I could look at a building and go, oh, that's how that's all put together. How does everybody not see that that's how this is put together? Like it just clicked.
But at the same, but during this time of reading and scanning through these books, there was no in parallel like building. Like you weren't.
There was for sure. I was trying, but I mean, it was all informal. You know, at that time, you know, I would do some stuff at my girlfriend's parents' house. That was like the biggest outlet I had. Probably. Eventually, I get the idea. Like I'm gonna make some money at this. I'm going to do some projects and people are going to pay me, which was like mind blowing that I could do what I loved and somebody would give me money for it. I come to find out that I didn't make any money. I was awful at the business end of things. It took me like years to even figure out how bad I was. And
you were doing what, side projects, you know, 'cause you were working at Fine Homebuilding full time, right?
Yep. And at that time I was working at the Home Depot too. I think that overlapped a little bit. I should have mentioned that kind of was, I think, a helpful in that probably got me over to answer your question, that landed me at home building instead of woodworking. They might've seen, oh, this guy works at Home Depot.
What division?
Oh, I was in the garden and outdoor building supplies.
I was building materials. I crushed aisle 16 and 17 and 18.
Oh yeah,
that was my jam.
I was. So you were, how many years you worked there, Johnny?
Oh God, it was 2 years. So I worked there my high school year. So I was working at the rink, working at Home Depot, and then working for my boss. And then I would come home weekends from college and work at Home Depot, do Friday nights, Saturday nights, and Sunday nights. I had a wicked social life.
Yeah, me too. I would drive from Yukon all the way down to the. Johnny, it's weird that we've had the same jobs. It's freaking me out,
dude. Like this is you're telling my story. Hockey stick furniture. I used to go down to Grossman's Bargain Outlet, grab tools.
Yep. So what was I just talking about? I lost my train of thought.
I had asked about working in parallel with
projects,
learning.
Yeah. So I would do like basement, my first job, it was across the street from my girlfriend's house. The first one that was not like a family or friend kind of a thing. This woman was doing her kitchen she was getting new granite countertops for her kitchen. And she had this weird little round extension off the kitchen counter. So it was like a peninsula, but it was fully round and just connected by a little bit. And it had a cylindrical cherry column underneath it. That's what she wanted it to look like, this design. So first job out of the gate, I'm not like rehanging a door. I'm turning a cherry column underneath this ugly ass countertop, and it had this massive overhang. So I had to work with a local steel shop to draw and fabricate a big metal plate that would tie into the cabinets, the island cabinets, and then cantilever off and be supported by this post. So I'm completely in over my head. I remember sitting there going, I don't even know if I can pull this off. I have no idea how to do this. I did pull it off. I remember I drew the detail for the metal fab shop to do the work using MS Paint on my computer because I didn't know how to do anything else. But it was like the feather in the cap at the end of it was that the granite installers were like, dude, we've never seen better cabinet support than this on any job. Like, this is like, we just wanted like some support. You gave us a metal plate to put it down on top of just like not knowing, just way overkill, you know? But then so it just started rolling from there, and I was fearless. I would just take on bigger and bigger jobs. Full basement remodels was a huge thing. I did a lot of those. I gravitated towards a lot of finished carpentry projects, tons of crown molding and mantles and doors and windows, baseboard, flooring. I unfortunately got really good at drywall because there's no way to get good at drywall unless you do too much of it. So it just rolled and rolled and rolled. And I had as much work as I wanted to. I was super busy. And that was kind of like, at that time in my life, I was not, I was the weird dude who couldn't hold down a relationship. Like I would move from dating one person to the next and couldn't really commit to anybody. And I would just use work as an escape. Like I would just work all the time to avoid.
Do you think it had anything to do with laying in bed reading Taunton Press books at night?
Probably.
At this juncture in your life?
Probably. I don't do well with half measures. Like I get down the path, and like even having the baby at home now, it's tough to be like, all right, I'm just going to go upstairs for an hour and like frame those knee walls in the attic and try and make that office space. And then like, that little taste. It's like, why don't you take the kid to your parents' house this weekend and I'll just work on this for 18 hours straight. Like I can't, it's hard to turn it off.
You know what's crazy though, is I think about that all the time, Justin, is I never had that type of ambition when it came to school.
Never.
At all. Like
never.
You couldn't tie me to a chair and get me to look at something long enough where woodworking, time just races by.
Yep.
And I have no idea where I'm lost. And I'm just so into the step I'm on, 3 steps ahead, and then catching that flaw and then working this step so that I don't have that flaw anymore.
Right.
It's like this weird, like you're saying this and I'm like, same thing. Like I didn't do well in school, but I also didn't really apply what I apply now to my business in carpentry and the woodworking that I ever did in school.
I feel like especially with anything hands-on, it's like I was the same way when I would do carpentry or when I would work on like my truck that I was building. It's like time, nothing, like there was no time. I would work until I looked at the clock and then realized, shit, it's 3 a.m. I got work in the morning. And the same thing in school. It's like, John, you say someone couldn't tie you to the chair. It's like I pick up a book, and I'll read, but I can't read. Even though I want to read and like grab that knowledge, I can't read more than a chapter at a time because it literally puts me to sleep.
Right. I mean, like the only measure of time when I'm doing work is like there's just not enough of it. Like the day's not long enough.
Right. Or someone's like behind, or like you have to be home for dinner, or the kid, or like there's like
there's
something
like that,
waiting.
There's the guilt. Yeah, right. It's like I remember early on when you guys were recording episodes, Nick, and you would talk about being in you had like that little shop at the time, and you'd be out there cranking out when you were still doing cabinetry and things, like in the middle of the night, just trying to get it all done. Yeah. And I'm going, how the hell's Nick doing this when he's got a wife at home? Like I feel guilty for you.
I feel like guilty.
It was just.
It was. I think the word guilt is really important. I think a lot of us probably feel that way, because we're in a trade that we all genuinely love, and we're doing something like when we're at work. For us, it doesn't usually feel like work. Right. Like, yeah, sure. If something's bad's happening, and like then it's bogus and you're pissed off. But when you're flowing and things are cruising, it's like. You do have this level of guilt where it's like, even when I'm working here, it's like, or doing the podcast, and now that we're doing it from home, it's like I can hear my kids screaming downstairs. Right. And I know I just want to text my wife and be like, hey, I'm sorry that you're dealing with it right now, and I'm upstairs hanging out with my buddies.
Yeah.
I feel guilty until I walk in the door and then my kids are monsters. And I'm like, oh my God, I kind of want to go back to work right now. I have like 10 minutes of them. But I remember even in school, I would constantly be focused on the clock or how much time left I had until I got done. I just couldn't wait until the school day was over. And that was throughout my entire academic career, college and everything else. It was just like I was there because I had to physically be there, but I was checked out. And now any day that I'm on the job, I'm looking at the clock to see how many hours or how much time I have left and how much more I can get done.
Right.
Which is the complete opposite
right.
of
That's exactly right.
18 years of my life.
But the thing is, like, and then I'm not like trying to blow rainbows up anybody's ass. I mean, there's definitely a lot of days doing project, and I don't do a lot of side projects anymore. But when I did a lot of them, there's days by the end of the day you're like, why am I doing this? I hate this. I'm so sick of it. Like, I just want to, like, oh, I can't. I got 4 more months of this remodeling project until it's going to be over. And then I'd go home and I'd take a shower, and like 2 hours after that, you're like, let's do it again. I'm psyched. Let's go. Yeah. Like, it just resets so fast. Like, you're just pushing that limit of how much you can get done. And, and I'd be annoyed that I had to stop to eat. Like, God damn, like, I gotta stop. I gotta get lunch. Like, tomorrow I'm packing a lunch because I don't want to stop. I'm just gonna I'm gonna stop at this place and I'll grab some peanut butter and a loaf of bread and so I can keep going.
I still don't really stop for lunch. I only stop for lunch when people are on the job with me.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I'm like, I just want to keep working.
I just can't do it. Like, the metabolism.
It feels like you're doing it for them.
Yeah. No, I definitely am. I wouldn't I'm by myself right now. I don't stop for lunch.
How do you keep your energy level up then?
I mean, I eat, but I'm not going to sit down and have a full meal and then check emails and listen to the radio. I just
I get it.
Take 5 minutes, eat, get back to work.
Right.
I'm not sitting around on a bucket for a half hour looking, hey, we got 5 minutes left.
Yeah, right. Counting it down. No, it's like the other day it was a Friday and I was like wrapping up everything, and I really have this thing in my head where there's a presentation that doesn't really happen, where the client walks through in the weekend, but I want to make sure everything looks tight and clean, whatever. So I literally walked out with my guy John, walked out of the house, got in my truck and everything, and let John start his and drive away. And I then, once he was out of like eye shot, I got out of my truck and went and cleaned the house. So I was like, I don't want him to come hang with me and have that burden on him. But I was like, this is my thing, and I want to vacuum this. I want this to be right, and everything like that. But it is a weird thing where you find yourself doing certain things to kind of conform to the norm. But in reality, you're like, all right, is this over yet? Can I go back to work?
Yeah, right. I'm wondering if it's going to start to transition into, I was talking to Rob Yagid about that today because he's got 2 little kids at home, and he was like, yeah, dude, why do you think I'm remodeling my bathroom at 9:00 at night after all the kids are in bed? Like, you just got to figure it out. And I'm going, yeah, that's the one frontier I haven't tapped into, is that whole, like, when everyone's asleep, let's start working. Who was it you guys had on that was that, is it Jay Him? That does the side business, but it's like all after his wife and kids go to bed.
Yeah, I don't know if that's still the case with him, but
he's full time now.
He's full time.
Okay,
yeah.
But yeah, it was and didn't we find that out on the podcast? Like, was he in the military? No.
Yeah,
a military base or something.
Yeah, in the day.
And yeah, it was like his kids would go home, they would go to bed, and he'd be in the garage late night.
I should give you guys your propers. This podcast is awesome. Like, I've been crushing through all the episodes. I know I wrote you guys a review, but a while back, and
we read it. Did you hear us read it?
Yeah, I meant every word of it. You guys, like, it really has grown into some super cool stuff, and I've really been surprised by a lot. I mean, it's surprised in good ways and bad ways, like listening to financial discussions and going, how is somebody interested in doing this every day? Like, being a spec builder and having to figure out, like, oh, you want this, you got to watch out for points on the back end of this one. What you want to do is split it. And I'm going, oh my God, why would somebody want to do this? But that's what it takes.
I say
right?
it every week. Like, as much as it is for like the listeners and who we're talking to, it's literally an emotional roller coaster every time we talk to people.
Yeah.
I get these like highs and lows, and like, I should quit. I should definitely start this division. I should do this. And Johnny gave me some crap last week saying, don't change every week. But it's like, it's just like, that's what I love about it, and I think that's why it's grown into something. Thank you for complimenting us, but so great, because it is this emotional roller coaster that we're sitting here chatting about it, and it's like, the lows are low, the highs are high, and everything in between is just everything in between. And it's fun. It's like,
and we're not putting on a persona. Like,
no, and it's genuine. Yeah. And that's what I like about it. And it was funny because just recently on Instagram, I think it was Jake Bruton had posted something about losing a lot of money on a job or having like a steep learning curve. So I thought, let me kind of have some little solidarity here. And like he's laying down some personal stuff. I'm gonna post this picture from this basement remodel I did, like 2008 or something, where I lost my shirt. And like you get into this groove on Instagram where the same dozen people comment on everything you do. But that one was getting all these DMs from people I'd never knew were following me, and like everybody like, oh man, I'm in the same boat. It was exactly the same situation
because it's
as you were in.
relatable. That's what it is.
And it was
everyone wants to hear. No one gives a shit if you are like all the pretty stuff you do, not from peer to peer, like the clients, but peer to peer. They want to know how you lost your ass and then recovered from it.
Right.
That's
right. Or how you got to that tight miter. Like if I see another like tight miter coming together, I'm gonna barf on my phone. Like I want to like show me your setup. Show me like, oh, this was my miter saw when I came out of the box. Here's how I get it dialed in so I can get this cut. Oh, like, oh, this is the blade I'm using. Here's how I clean the pitch off the teeth.
It's funny. And I think this kid, I think he listens, and I hope he does, and I hope he DMs me. But he's local, young kid, works, and his father owns this company, and he's constantly, he flies through trim. He's incredibly fast. He's always taking up close shots of the miters, talking about there's no tighter miter and blah, blah, blah. But what I love about it is it's just his persona, and it's so much energy, and it's like, screw you guys. Like we're the best. We're fast. We did this in 2 days, boom, boom, boom. And then then he'll talk about it. He's like, I don't need any fancy clamps. I don't need old school, man. And just talk about all the old school. And I'm like, I kind of like that. I'm like, everyone's like getting new equipment, using the lamello, the fest. Like I get it. Like we use it, the clamps. Like, but then it's like this kid's probably mid-20s and he's doing it old school with a DeWalt table chop saw, achieving just as good, if not better quality, and putting everyone on blast for it. And it's entertaining.
Yeah, I mean, it's like. Instagram is such a cool place because it's so all over the place what you take out of it. I don't post all that much anymore, mostly because I don't do as much work. And my thing with Instagram was I wanted to not use it as like this, as Johnny always says, the humble brag, or like, look how tight this miter is. I wanted to be able to teach something like that, because that's what I'm interested in, is like breaking down complicated topics. That's what we do at the magazine, breaking down complicated topics and making them understandable for people. And I wanted to, like, here's a cool trick. Here's how I've solved this problem. And then I look at Tyler's work, and I'm just like, whatever, I'm gonna quit. Like, this is so good. I like
you look at Tyler's stuff and you're like, oh, I still got work to do.
Yeah, no, it's like, no, it's not even that, Johnny. Because like I used to play guitar a lot, and then you'd listen to like, you'd go to a concert and somebody would play. You're thinking, I'm pretty good. I'm getting good at this. You go to a concert, you watch somebody nasty play, and your immediate reaction is not, I want to be that good. It's just here, take my guitar. I'm done. Yeah. That's what I get when I look at Tyler's stuff. I don't feel inspired to do better. I feel like I want to give up.
I feel like I'm like
that's super nice. I appreciate it.
I was like, my tile guy's really coming along, really good. And then Tyler keeps posting and posting and posting these tile shots of every cut being perfect. And I'm like, you guys suck.
Dude,
I have a whole tile crew on a house, and I'm like, you suck. You need some work. Can we dial this in?
I'm just tiling by myself. That's why.
Well, not only that, but you're probably the first one to admit, Tyler, that you've got this inner demon that's like, won't let you stop. Like it's like a curse. It's a blessing and a curse, right?
No, absolutely.
It's a different frequency, man.
He's like that tortured genius. Like, I got to get this perfect. Whereas I can go, yeah, that's good enough. I'm leaving.
Dude, we should film like a Good Will Hunting, but you as like that genius.
I feel like it
I'll lay out on the window.
That'd
and
be
Sharpie.
Cool. Yeah,
it kind of compounds itself, because once you start getting things start looking out of place if they're not right.
Yep.
If you have
absolutely
plumb level and square walls, and you put a cabinet in or you put a tile in and it's a little bit off, you can now tell that you're cheating. So I feel like I've created a monster. But that's, somebody commented the other day, is this for you or is this for the customers? And it's for both. It's what I want to be doing. So I've developed a business model that suits that, but I also find customers that's what they want.
What is that old saying? What I do is for you. How I do it is for me. I always thought that really rang true. And people that are like, they go down this line of, well, is the customer paying you to fuss that long on that shower niche? It's like, screw off, man. Like, yes, they are. Otherwise, they can hire somebody else. Like, that's,
and like that. maybe they are in some aspects, and maybe they aren't. And maybe I gained some time on something up front. Once it gets to that point of the job, I could easily lose a fair amount of money because I just get so buried in what I'm doing. But that's a benefit of staying small and not having a huge overhead, that I can afford to be able to do that. And then my customers, I'm not rushed, or I'm not paying a ton of people where it's like, let's just get this done. And I mean, that's all deliberate on my end.
Nick, does it feel like he's talking directly to you and me when he says that?
Yeah.
Right?
I'm like sitting here. You know what I keep thinking about is he posted that photo. I'm watching him put that subway tile shower together. The niche looks great. And but in my head, I'm always like, the shot that you want to see is like the planar wall, or like direct on when the sun's hitting it, to see like, are they really flat? And he posted, I think, Friday afternoon. I'm like, all right. Like that thing looks grouted and done, and it's not.
It's not.
Yeah, but
like,
you know what?
But everybody's mint.
But I actually looked at it today, and I was like, wait, is there grout in this or not? And then I realized there wasn't. And I was like,
because it always looks better when it's grouted. It usually doesn't look great when it's not grouted.
My customer was just texting me that at the beginning of this podcast. Like, it's not even grouted yet, and it's flawless.
Yeah, it usually doesn't look that good.
Yeah, I'm like, hurry up and get the grout on so I can feel better about how this goes. But you know what? Everybody's got their Tyler. I mean, I don't know who Tyler's Tyler is. Maybe it's Josh O'Doin out in the West Coast doing ridiculous,
he does amazing work.
Ridiculous shower niches. And he's sorry, that reminded me, there was an old article that Tom Meehan, who used to be he's still a tile installer, but he used to write a lot for us. And he said, I call them shower niches unless I want to charge more money, and then it's a niche.
Yeah. Yep.
But anyway.
It's true. I think that there's certain people that you look up to and you respect their work and you kind of aspire to be that. Josh's work, Josh's tile work, Josh's layouts have always been amazing. I've loved watching him kind of build his business. He's always, I feel like, been at the top of that self-performing game. But there's a ton of people with every trade that, you want to get to that level. And what happens with me is I'm self-performing so many, so I'm getting an opportunity to kind of learn so many different trades and then try and hone that craft on so many different trades. I'm not just setting tile. I'm not just doing trim carpentry. So if I'm going to self-perform that many trades, I don't want to be decent at any of them. I want to be as good as I can be. If not, I should be hiring it out.
Yeah, I think John, like you said, does it feel like he's talking directly to us? And I think, there's been times where I wish I've ripped tile out. Like, we're speaking specifically to that. And we had one recently where we had a small warranty issue we went back for, and the client made a comment about one of the tiles that we let slide. And it was like, we finished the job, we noticed it, I pointed it out, I said I wanted to fix it, he didn't want us to. He was happy, it was good. And it was a year later he made a comment on it, and I was, we were there for a warranty issue, and he was like, I'm going away, you guys can come in this week, we can you can take care of the warranty issue. I went there, ripped the tile out.
So one of my questions is, did you point it out to him, or did they see it? Because I feel like
I pointed it out.
Like, so my thing is that
planted the seed.
Sometimes, I told my guy this the other day, sometimes we just need to learn when to shut up.
Yeah,
but I don't think like
no, but to your level, I'm not saying not take it out. Mm-hmm. I'm not arguing that point.
Well, I think this is what you were getting at last week, right?
You gave him the option. They opted out, but then they can stew on that, and then they threw it back in your face. That's the no-no.
What I should have said is, hey, that tile's out. We are replacing it. Exactly. Not asked.
Not an option.
Right. Yeah, I agree with that.
And what is it about? What is it about when you're building something? I have this problem in spades where, like, the whole time I'm building it, I'm going, this is gonna be so cool. Wait until I show this picture to to my wife, or wait until I I text this to the guys or I put it on Instagram. And then as soon as I'm done, I'm so proud of it. And somebody comes and looks at it. I'm like, yeah, but look over here. And this is marked up. And this is where I screwed up. And that's where I miscut and I had to fix it. And it's like, you can't just shut up and let the work be good.
Yeah.
It's like every job.
Yeah. It's
like every photo in my photo booth. Like I'm like, this is a great photo. I'm going to post this later. Then at like 9 o'clock tonight, I'll look at it and be like, oh, that's wrong. That needs to be fixed. That's shit. Like,
you guys are so tortured.
Oh my God. You know, my biggest thing about this whole thing about Tyler is that I think it's a super bummer that the guys that tile my projects or even in our industry, in our area, don't have the reference point of Tyler.
Yeah.
You get me? I'm not just trying to blow smoke, Tyler, but it's like, I wish they would see that because they would up their game, because I think a lot of those guys, they burn through so much tile on a weekly basis on a year. Yeah. It's just another tile job.
Dude, I send Tyler stuff and like any of that crazy stuff. I send it to my tile guy. I'm like, dude, see? And he's like, oh, I never thought of that. I'm like, just like, I'm always planting it. And it's like this is what we're trying to achieve. And it becomes those immediate, like, you know, like Andrew had said on the podcast, it's like, just, hey, we're ripping it out, we're replacing it. It's not an option. We're not talking about it. I'll pay for it, whatever it is. Like, these are the standards that you need to live up to. And I you know.
But I mean, for most people, they don't have an army of employees. So like setting that high benchmark for the guys that install to is crucial, because if I bounce to another job and someone's not there, and honestly, a lot of subs play that game where, hey, I'm gonna set it the way it's easiest as possible, and put it on the GC or the builder to say, rip it out. They're going to call your bluff, meaning they're going to put in a third of that floor and it be wrong until someone says rip it out. And guess what? The first time you do that and you put a mudroom in and someone sets it their own way, even though you reviewed it, and you don't pull it out, guess what? They own you.
Right.
That tile crew will do whatever they want on every single job. And it's like, now I have a relationship with guys. That's why it's a hard time to move stuff, where I walked into the herringbone floor at Suffolk Custom, and they were ripping the floor out. I hadn't even seen it yet. And I was like, what's going on? And they're like, it lays out like trash. And I was like, great to know. Let me know when it's fixed, and I'll come back in. But that doesn't happen overnight. So, but now it's like, you have to almost, there's like one company will have 4 or 5 installers. I don't know who I'm going to get on that job. Like today, I'm super bummed out that we had that Butler's pantry that's amazing, and we had 1 row of tile left after we put in the nickel countertops. A different guy showed up for that 1 row, and guess what? I can't walk by that room that's 5 feet wide without flipping out. And so I'm like, I need the other guy to come back, rip this tile out, put it in right, because there's tens of thousands of dollars, endless hours involved, and all I see is that last row.
Johnny, do you still have access to that guy that we shot the Backsplash article with?
Dude, I reached out to him. He left that company. Tim.
Yeah, I guarantee you want to know why he left. It's probably because he was too slow.
Yeah, exactly.
Because we would, so it was like a background, and this was like we don't usually work like this where we just kind of throw the dice and say, let's just go shoot something. But for this project, for some reason, I can't remember the backstory. Like, we had a Backsplash project, and it fell through. It fell through, and we needed something to fill a slot. So I said, hey, Johnny, do you have anything going on in your house? And he's like, yeah, we're just about to do a Backsplash. We didn't even know who the installer was. So I show up there. I'm like, yeah, this will be like a day. I think we were there for like 3 days.
You were.
and that guy was like, that's Tyler's Tyler.
Yeah.
Like he was incredible. Like, just the level of detail, and like, but how he could explain it. Like, he would, you know, like, it's our job as the editor when we're going to shoot these things. Like, we get to ask all the dumb questions, and it's not like I'm trying to challenge for authority with this. It's not like, well, how come you cut it that way? I'm not doing it like because I know a better way. It's more like, I want you to just say it out loud so that you can be like, well, you know, I don't usually cut it this way. Usually I do it. Let me just show you the way I usually do it. You know, like, I'm trying to get to the point where they're realizing what they're doing. But he was able to be like, I'd be like, well, how do you know? And I've been on so many jobs where I ask the same question of, how do you know what the right ratio is to mix this to, whatever it is, drywall compound, thin set, grout, whatever. And he would be like, I know it's right when I can dip my finger in it and the thin set hangs off my finger without falling. And he holds up his finger in front of my face, and I took a picture of it, and I was like, that's like my favorite picture, because it's like he had the answer immediately how he knows. And it's not like, oh, I just know because I've been doing it for 30 years. He knew how to teach it to somebody. And every step of that project was like that.
Yeah, he was amazing.
Yeah.
I reached out to him a while ago because this big house in Dover, I was like, I will park him there. Tyler, you'd love him, because I was like, I'd walk into his job and he would tile the whole house. And I'm like, yo, why don't you get a guy that mixes for you? He's like, nope. Nope. Like, it wasn't like Justin just said. It wasn't like, yeah, I thought about it. He's like, nope. I don't care what task it is. I'm the only guy doing it.
Yep.
And he did not care. He did not. He's been doing it so long that it was not an option. He was just like, I know my mix. I know how long it lasts. I know how much to do. I know all these things on how fast I can tile with this amount of mix. And it's not going to be like I'm going to be getting to the point where I have to add a little bit of water and then I dilute the adhesive. He's like really he's so dialed in. I've reached out to him a few times just to check in on him, like a wellness check. And he left, and now he just does like his own thing here and there. And I've asked him like on a certain job, I'm like, can you come and just tile this? He's like, yeah, absolutely, man. He's a good guy.
So why don't you just have him be your guy? You found him. That's him.
I know.
Whatever he wants to charge.
No, but the straight up reason is I haven't gotten to a point where I have the right projects for that person.
Nick's about to slow down. Nick, he's about to be Nick's job.
Yeah, I feel like it's tough to. I feel like it's certain people, after you know what they do and their passion for it, certain products that we do is an insult to them and their qualifications and their level of craftsmanship. Mm-hmm. And until I find that right one, like I still do it now, like certain painters will fit the right mold and plasters and everything else. And then once we get that level up, I have that kind of group of people that will be the perfect fit for that. And they'll feel like they're being represented correctly in the work. We overthink, all of us do what we do, but that's how I think. I'm like, Tim would be great for this, like that house in Dover, like the tile layout. I'm like, you'd be great. So I did check in with him. I'm like, hey, you available? Right. Would that be cool? And then, budgets and whatever else, I'm like, I'm not going to call him and be like, hey, can you come down on price so I can use you? That conversation's never going to happen. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to put him through it, and that's rude of me to ask.
No, but it's interesting what you say, because I mean, it is sort of like, I know this is beneath you. I know we're just putting in subway tile for a backsplash, and you could do anything that's made out of tile. It's yeah.
It's funny, even with tile, I remember, I learned so much about tile, even layout, over the years, and looking back on jobs when I first started, thinking, what the heck what was I ever doing? But issues I've had where I've learned, even with the layout, a tile guy that's going to lay tile out a certain way and install tile a certain way because it's going to save them a cut on every other course or every course. It's like, that's just wrong. It like a cut is a cut. If that's what you need to make your layout work, you have an extra however many cuts on a good tile job. Unless it's large format, you're going to have so many cuts along the way that's just part of it. And yeah, you're going to have finished edges and unfinished edges that you kind of need to dress and all that stuff. But early on, I learned that like when you walk into a job and you see it's like a full tile here and then a half tile here, and it's just so that they could save themselves on that install, that it's just so wrong.
Do you guys feel like you have certain things when you go into a house or into a restaurant that you key into, like I remember being at lunch, I think it was with Cliff Popejoy, who's an electrician. And I was like, my eye immediately goes to like, oh, look how crappy the shoe molding was put in, or like that baseboard, like, oh, they screwed up that reveal. And I'm like, and I was talking to him like, do electricians have that same thing? And he goes, he made direct eye contact without looking at the ceiling. He goes, yeah, I've already looked at every one of the junction boxes in the ceiling and I can't stand how they're laid down. And I didn't even see him look at it. So I'm just kind of curious, like it reminded me of a Tyler, because every time I go into the restroom at a restaurant, I immediately go to the tile layout, and I'm like, does it start with a full one and end with a slice? These guys were lazy. Yeah.
Always.
Not always. Sometimes they get it right.
I've never seen a
probably
good
just
commercial
so happen.
tile bathroom.
But like I have no talent for floor plan layout at all. So I always wonder, like, do architects walk in and go like, wow, they really boned it on this layout. Like this has no flow. And I would love that. I'd like to be able to build up that skill to be able to.
I don't know if that's a skill. I feel like those type of layouts, even kitchen layouts,
it's a burden.
I don't know if it's an actual skill or that's almost something that you're born with that perception, or that you can just feel if a space is right. I can mimic things. I could take details from somebody else, but to just come up with something out of nothing, to see a square or a rectangle and then create this space, I don't know if that's learned behavior. I'm sure that you could fine tune those things through, but I think so much of that is just like a talent or a gut that you're kind of born with.
I agree with that. I can't start from nothing. Like if someone said draw up your dream house, I would have no idea what shape that would be.
Yeah.
But if someone took my thoughts and started it and put up, hey, this is the floor plan that makes sense, I could absolutely improve on that, like each individual room, but I couldn't. I can't do the floor plan thing.
I think you need to challenge that and try it, because I think it's one of the best challenges. I did it for my house.
Dude, I've drawn this house I'm in literally 100 times.
But you need to, like, when you, like, I almost think of it like, for Justin, as like a writer's block. When you've gotten to a point where you can't figure out how something works, then you need to move that above you. And like, I'll bounce it off my architect and be like, hey, can you play with this? And then they kick it back to you, and it's like an adult talking to a 12-year-old. It's like, oh, this is what you have to do. And you're like, oh, shit, of course. But I think going back to the other topic of like, what do you look for? I found that I don't look for one in particular thing. I scan a room, and then there's a rhythm to like layout and everything. And then it's a thing of what is wrong. It may not be the trim. It may not be a cope. It may not. It's like, what proportions are wrong? What's the layout? I'm like, something feels wrong, and then it's like, all right, what is it that is wrong? And then you keep looking around. You're like, I figured it out. The layout of this wall, it's the craziest things. But yeah, I'm not as sly as most people. I will sit there and stare and be like, until I get it, and I'm like, there you are. I got it. We went to dinner with Nick at Cucan when they came to town, and I was like trying to figure out what was wrong with that layout in that restaurant. It was like, it was the proportions of something, and I was like, it took me forever to figure out what it was, but it will still be like, oh, what is it? Oh, it's that.
I have zero memory. So like every time I go out to dinner with my wife, and I'll be like, it's really
named like 6 people that I have no idea who they are. Like
no, but like I have no memory for things that I've said. Like, so I can't remember. Yeah. So like I'll go out to dinner. I'll be like, wow, it's really loud in here. You know what affects that is like this really, the ceiling has all these hard surfaces. And she just kind of looks at me and goes, I'm like, what? She's like, do you have any idea how many times you've told me the same thing? I was like, no, I feel like this is the first time I've ever said it. But
it's probably not gonna get any better.
Yeah, I know. It's gonna just be just
terrible.
Ease me right into the old folks' home. But Tyler, I don't know. I disagree a little bit. I think there's, I think it's definitely there's a talent for it. But you can definitely learn how to take somebody's the way they live, what they're looking for out of a house, and you can design a house that makes that work. I mean, you're a remodeler, so you're excellent at going into a space and going, well, what if we took this wall down? I mean, and Nick, you do the same thing with, you show some of these before pictures and you're like, dear God, how the hell did you see this kitchen in this place? Like, cause I just see this is a mess.
But see,
I think what's scary is the blank canvas.
Yeah.
Agree. But let me stop you there, because that's why before and afters are so popular. That's why like Fixer Upper is so popular, because you get to see the dump and then it ends with a pretty picture.
Right.
When I put up a before or when anyone puts up a before and after, the whole point is to have this like, holy crap, like swipe back and forth, look at how it looked before. I didn't necessarily stand in that space and look at that dump kitchen and say, oh, I know exactly what this is going to look like. That, the process in which, that happened was extremely long. Right. And doing like the before and after photo, or like a show that does that, that's a big problem that we have with TV, right? Because we look at it, it's like, that's not how that happens. This isn't a 22-minute ordeal. This is months
but it kind of does. I mean, I've walked into several houses where people go, there's something wrong with this. Can you fix this? And I always have to do the disclaimer, like, this is my 30-second like dump on this house. And you have to come up with that all the time. I mean, I found, like, we do some renovations and we've done more custom where it's like, even we've had an amazing architect in Massachusetts, one of the best, do a design, and the client calls me and goes, hey, I don't know what's wrong with this. Can you come fix it and look at the layout? And you have to walk it and go, all right, what it is that you want? And you have to take in, it's like those weird movies where you walk in, but you've remembered every piece of, it's like that murder, and you're like, there's an evidence there, evidence here. And I recently did it, and it's a house where he's like, here's the design. They're going to do the bathroom in the addition, and the closet's going to be where the bathroom was. And he goes, I don't love it. And I walked through their entire house, and everything's really modern in their house. Like, every picture has a black frame on it that's timeless. And I'm like, dude, we could totally leave the bathroom the way it is. Would you be comfortable with doing the tub and the shower heads, then doing that glass frame where it's just black, which would match every one of your pictures on the way up here? And then you have vanity in front of us, toilet room on the right, which was completely different what was done. And he's like, yeah, I left there, found a photo that was in my phone, sent it to him and go, hey, this is very similar, different tile, obviously. This is the way to play it out. But it's like, that was a 20-minute walkthrough. And it's what comes natural to you. And if you have to renovate a house to solve people's issues, you have to first listen about what it is that their needs are. Yeah. Then what the refinement or confinements are of the house itself. If you have to keep, I just did it this weekend. A friend of mine was like, hey, interest rates are super low. I might think about keeping the footprint or not. And I'm like, what are your thoughts? Like, what are your needs? What do you want? Before I even walk inside, and they're like, well, this is the kitchen. We have 4 kids, blah, blah. I have to walk through that and come up with an idea in that 30 minutes.
Right.
Like, you don't have a choice. It may not be perfect. It can get refined.
Yeah, you're laying the ground rules for sure. Like, you're seeing the space and seeing how it can be improved. And I wasn't discrediting that. I think it was more, I was making the reference to what it's going to look like, the pretty photo in the end. It's like there's a lot of steps that it takes to get there,
Oh, it's the TV magic. I remember watching, and this was only like a couple of years ago. I was at my parents' house, and they put on This Old House, and they were watching the landscape guy. It was either landscape guy or Tom Silva, and he was doing, he put down his box beam level and on something, and then they showed the bubble, and it's perfect. And my dad leans back in a chair, and he goes, "Of course, like that guy nails it. Tom always gets it perfect." And I'm like, hold on a second. And I'm like, I've been on enough of these shoots. What really happened right there was the wide shot, he put the level down. They cut to a close-up of it being perfect. He probably had his finger under one end or whatever you have to do to make it perfect. And then you go back to the wide shot, and it makes it look like he's perfect. And my dad's like, oh, all right. And it's like, you don't even stop to think as a viewer that you just got played a little bit. Because even if he did get it perfect, they can't get that all in one shot. They have to switch to a close-up. So, like, it's that kind of stuff that drives me insane with people just kind of that don't understand what's going on in these shoots to make everything look perfect.
I also wish I never knew that.
Sorry.
Like, I'm just not you, but like even my kids, I've told them all this stuff, and we'll watch a movie, and they're like, so you're telling me all the people in the crowd are extras? And I'm like, yeah. They're all paid to be there and to cheer at the same time. And now I'm like, God, I'm ruining everything to them. Like, every ad they watch, it's like, oh, and free shipping, and they're like, not free, it costs money. Like, yep. It's like they're 13 and 9.
I'm with you, Johnny, because I mean, you guys have all met Colin, my video director at the work, and I've learned all of this stuff that I know about video from him.
He's amazing.
He's awesome. And he's just this weird, quirky guy, but like he's got this genius of video. And it ruins it for him. So I remember one time he came into work and he goes, what was the name of the show? I think it was like Tudors or like something like that, one of those period shows. And he goes, I was like, oh yeah, it's cool. Did you watch that show? And he goes, I watched one episode, and one of the guys on screen had such a bad wig that even when he wasn't on camera, all I could think about was him standing off camera and how bad his wig was. And he's tortured by like the lighting positions. Like, oh God, all I'm thinking about is where the lights are and shining on. So he can't. So for him, like a movie is awesome if it sucks him in and he forgets all of those things.
Yeah. Right.
Like he just gets pulled into it. But no, he's taught me a ton. Like, like this trick. We were sitting in an airport one time and he goes, "You want to know, Justin, what the trick to really good how-to video is you should be, once you're done with it, you should be able to shut off the sound and follow the whole thing without any words." It's like, that's the final test of your edit. And I was like, and now I do it. Like you're sitting in an airport and you're watching, Property Brothers or something, and you're trying to piece together what's going on, and you realize, wow, they really need voiceover to like make this work because they don't have the content, and that stuff drives me crazy.
Well, with that being said, so how has content changed for you guys being a magazine? Because that obviously, I don't know the numbers, but I assume that the numbers are probably down on subscriptions, and from readership. And how has that changed, who Taunton is or who Fine Homebuilding is?
So you're right. The newsstand, really a lot of it is tied to the newsstand. There's not a lot of places to buy a magazine anymore. You can see it in the airports or in grocery stores, but the big book selling chains like Borders and Barnes and Noble and whatever, they're all Home Depot and Lowe's. A lot of them have just said, we're not selling this anymore. We can use the space for something else. Excuse me. And so that's been a huge hit for us. And you also got to keep in mind that the way our company was started, it was always set up to be what they call endemic advertising. So I'll give you like a point of comparison, something like, and I'm not picking on This Old House, but This Old House is another magazine that's in our neighborhood loosely, very loosely. And they, the way it works for a lot of other magazines is they make their money from advertisers. Mm-hmm. So what they want to do is they want to have as many copies of that magazine out into the world as possible. And they do that by charging you almost nothing for it. So that's why you get these deals, sign up now for 2 years for $5, because all they want to be able to do is go to Crest Toothpaste and say, Crest, we've got 8 billion people reading this thing. Those are the eyeballs that are going to see your ad. So the content of the magazine is it doesn't matter to the advertiser. It doesn't really matter. They just want the people holding the magazine, right? Oftentimes when you get those ad sales buys, like let's say, Festool buys an ad in This Old House, often part of that deal, and you should always look for this kind of stuff, is you see that Festool ad and you look at the page next to it or the page right before it or after it, and there's often a Festool product review. A lot of it comes with like, yeah, we'll buy it, but we're going to need a little love. Like we'll put an ad in here for a year, but you better talk about our new product. Some magazines are better with that than others. Journal of Light Construction went down that road for a while. I don't know what they're like now with that.
But there's a lot of magazines that are free. That I feel like I read them and it's all ads and there's no content for me.
Right.
And there's a lot of them, and they've gotten thinner over the years, whether it's custom home, qualified, remodel. I get all of them, but you've seen them kind of change. And it's funny, as you say that, my mind races at all these magazines that I've looked through, and it is a lot of that.
And to give it like some perspective, I think the math works out to something like a page in our magazine is like $30,000 or something like that. Like not that that's what it costs for, NS Builders to put an ad in. That's what it costs to make the magazine, that's what the value of it is, to like pull it all together, to sell it, to distribute it, to do all the back end business stuff. So it's very expensive. And so anyway, there's that one mindset of, I'm going to make this as cheap as possible so that I can get it in as many hands as possible, and I'll make my money off advertisers. And then Taunton Press kind of bucked that trend, and we said, well, we're going to make our money off of subscribers, and we're only going to let advertisers in that are on topic. So you're not going to see Crest toothpaste in our magazine. You're only going to see Ford trucks and Diablo tools and Festool and whatever else. And in the early days of that, it was a lot of little mom and pop companies. And people used to write us all the time that they loved that Fine Homebuilding had all of these little marketplace ads for all these cool companies, because people that subscribed, that's how they would learn about things that were available. I mean, this was pre-internet, or at least in the early days of internet. So they like, oh, I didn't know I could get wide plank floors, like reclaimed.
It was all
that's
secret
cool
stuff. Yeah,
yeah,
it
was all
Carlisle floors.
Yeah,
it was all like secrets. I felt like La Valley and all that.
Yeah, you feel like you're kind of getting this because it's endemic advertising. It's only stuff that you care about. So like you're going to read the advertisements as much as you read the content, because you're like, what other cool tools are there that I don't know about and all that stuff. But so as it's gotten more competitive and the newsstand dries up, it starts to squeeze everything. And now we have to work harder to get advertisers to want to be in a magazine. So we have to lower prices. We have to make better deals with them. We have to say, we're going to give you this, that, and the other thing all for that same price. And it, because the manpower on our end shrinks as everything tightens. Well, now we have less salespeople. So we don't have as much bandwidth to pull in all those little, 8th page ads. It's like, well, I'm not going to waste my time with that. If I can't sell a full page, I'm not going to talk to this person. So everything kind of gets squeezed. And there's always this balance between ad pages and editorial. And ideally it's supposed to be like 60-40, 70-30, somewhere around that. And for every issue of the magazine, we get in a room with the advertiser, with the salespeople, and we say, what do you bring to the table? And they'll say, well, we got, 25 pages of stuff. Can you guys cover the rest? And then we have to kind of adjust what we've got going on. Like, oh yeah, we can pad here, we can do this, we can do that. The other thing that Taunton Press does that's different, that's really unique, is that we don't have any advertisements in with the articles. So you have the beginning of the book and the end of the book, but in the middle, it's uninterrupted content. And that makes us also harder to sell, because advertisers want to be mixed in. They want you to be like, continued on page 53, so that you can pass by 9 ads before you can finish this article. So the things that kind of made us unique and really cool and had this really great story about why we're better than everyone else is also the things that make it harder for us to be competitive in a market where, anybody would sell their mother just to make ends meet. And it's gotten to the point where we really need people to subscribe. And it's going to be like, do you guys subscribe to Journal of Light Construction? I guess you don't have to even pay for it anymore. I think it's free. But that's a great magazine. And it's really, really sad to see it after like 40 years. It's shrinking down to like 2 articles per issue, and they just laid off their whole staff except for one guy. Like it's going away. Like it's going to be gone. They don't own that show anymore. They don't own the JLC Live. They're just using the name.
That was crazy to me when we learned that.
Yeah, like it's like that's people talk about like, oh, Fine Homebuilding and JLC. Well, JLC is going to be gone soon. And like, we're the last one standing. And I feel like, what's going to happen to us in 10 years or 5 years? I don't know. But do people value it enough that they want to spend, you could subscribe to JLC, Green Building Advisor, Fine Homebuilding, and probably something else for a grand total of $150, $200 a year. Like, are you kidding me? That's a roll of flexible flashing. You can't afford to, like, as a builder, you can't pay for that and have access to 40 years of content.
But that's a good price analogy. But the thing is, information is so readily available now.
Yes.
That, it's
but good information.
That's the tricky part.
Understood. But, I think of like, I have, what is it? Residential design sitting on my desk here. And
it's a bunch of advertisers.
Yeah.
Well, it's a bunch of modern homes, and it's like,
But it's a ton of advertising.
Sure, I've literally scanned through it quickly, but I looked through it and I'm like, oh, nice. I'm gonna scan through this and see some inspirational stuff, and I'm like, I see this stuff on Instagram. Like I've seen every one of these houses already.
Like
on
the
Instagram.
people that built it that are in the magazine.
It's like I probably DM'd with them,
Right.
and it's it's the argument about good information. That's fair, but everything is trending to be online. John, I think last episode, your wife was watching a masterclass while we were podcasting. Like, now you're learning online. All of this stuff is trending to be online, and you guys have made efforts to bring things online. So I guess going back to my question, it's, with content changing, what, the magazine is something, and I'm going to try to, kind of shorten what you said. It sounds like the magazine is something that you would love to have it continue and just be consistent and not go away. But on the flip side, you have to jump into this other market, which is, the internet or social media or whatever the case is, and have a strategy there. So I guess the question is, what is that?
Yeah, and that's my fault I kind of blurred the line and your question there, and I made it sound like all I was talking about is the magazine, and it's really it's the brand. Like, JLC, the brand is suffering. Fine Homebuilding, the brand is in danger. Like it's like on the endangered species list. We're not going anywhere anytime soon, but like we could use some help. Like that would be good to help ensure our future. So the way we think about being on different platforms, like whether it's a podcast or the website or in print, is that everybody just prefers to get information in a different way. So you really have to have the same content in a lot of different places. That's sort of what it breaks down to. And so then it becomes a game of efficiency. Like, whereas when I went and shot that tile install on one of Johnny's projects, it was me and a camera and 3 days. Now it would be a juggling act. Like, all right, do we want to just get a print article out of this? How much more effort would it take us to bring a camera guy to shoot video of this too? Well, what if we didn't have a video guy available? What if I just shot a handful of videos and then we did some back end magic to make that into a little bit of a kind of an online slideshow or a clip show of some portion of that project? So it's like you're trying to squeeze blood from a stone after a certain amount of time. You're trying to figure out, all right, I've got this tile guy for 3 days. How am I going to get content that goes beyond a magazine or that serves a lot of these audiences? When we originally went down this path online with videos, Colin's vision and I was kind of like the guy in front of the camera for the vision was, he wanted to make it feel like a TV show. He felt like, well, let's do these kind of 20-minute episodes. We'll take big projects like building a deck or refinishing a floor, and we'll break it into chunks, and then we'll put it all up online, and we'll release it like a TV show, like one episode per week. And it's just so funny how quickly that becomes. It just changes and changes, and you look back at it now, and you're like, man, we had like this long intro and like this title splash card and like an introduction with the voiceover, and then you had to wait a week to get the next episode, and like like nobody wants that now. You want like the whole thing immediately in one package, and you're annoyed if you have to wait 6 seconds for the content to start. You're like, yeah, whatever. I'm just going to slide this bar over and get to the part where things are happening. So it's like this constantly changing audience expectations. And so my job becomes then like anticipating, like how do we guess where they're going to go next? And it's a little bit of a gamble. Like, oh God, what are they going to want in 6 months? I think they're going to start to skew, like the hot thing for a while was they wanted short videos. Like, oh my God, all the analytics say that if it's longer than 30 seconds, people are going to drop off. We got to be at like 30 to 60 seconds max. And then you make a ton of videos that are that. And then the year after that, it's like, oh my God, all the analytics are pointing to the fact that if it's less than a minute, nobody will watch it. And sometimes that's the audience. Sometimes it's things like Facebook and Google, because they change their algorithms constantly and they don't tell anybody what the change is. Like you'll be watching your numbers online, like your stats, like all of our numbers are good, and then just boom, done. And you're like, what happened? Like, and then you find like these back channels of all the nerds talking to each other online that Google released some kind of change in algorithm that suppressed this and enhanced that, and all of a sudden you have to go back the back end and tweak all of your content so that it's able to be found again. Facebook is like this big bully on the block who basically wants it to be their way. They're like the Home Depot or Walmart of publishing. Like, if either you bow to their demands or you don't get found. Like, they actually came to all the publishers and they said, look, you're going to give us all of your content and we're going to put it on Facebook. And if you don't do that, then we're just going to make it so you can't get found. And so, and not only that, but we want it to be on Facebook, and we want people to stay on Facebook. So we're not even going to really link it back to your website. It's just give us your stuff. Otherwise we'll destroy you, basically.
And Mark said that.
Yeah. Mark came over. We had a beer and he laid it on the table for me. But
that was a real conversation you guys had.
Yeah, Mark and I. Yeah.
No. I mean Facebook. Like, you got, like, as a publisher.
Yeah, absolutely.
Were you in that movie? Now that I think about it.
Yeah. I played his girlfriend in the beginning, that opening scene. No, it's funny. I just watched that movie again.
I've never seen it.
I have no idea. I'm trying to picture if I can remember the opening scene and what
you ever saw Social.
Well,
I
watched it
on
the couch watching it with the How to Build a Deck book in his lap.
I watch it because Aaron Sorkin was the writer. The same guy who did West Wing and Newsroom, and the guy's amazing. And talk about a masterclass. He has a masterclass too, Johnny. Anyway, but yeah, so so Facebook, as an example, they changed things around so that essentially if your video is under 3 minutes, they discourage it from coming up in search results. So now all of those videos you shot that were trying to get to this audience who wanted the short things, now they're useless. Now you need to better have some long stuff. And you guys know, like, it's not like, great, let's re-release all of our videos tomorrow. I mean, this stuff has a tail. It's like, it takes a while to change the direction of the ship. You know, we got a lot of things happening at once, and sometimes it feels a little bit like, I feel like car mechanics must feel like this now, where they got into something because they loved working on a car, and then suddenly one day you find yourself opening up the hood of the car and it's like microchips, and you're like, what happened? Like, I got into this because I loved fixing cars, and now I'm like looking at analytics and I'm trying to figure out, you know, where the market trends are going, and you're like, maybe I climbed one rung too high on this ladder. Like,
it's funny you say that, because I was just thinking about that, you know, that the reason that you got into this was this insatiable desire to build and deconstruct, and now, you know, you've gotten away from that. You do that on your own, but this has taken on an entire new life.
Yeah, that's honestly, it's been a huge personal struggle for me, like a huge one, and it's daily. There's a huge part of me that wants to drop all of this and go be a builder. And I've bounced back and forth on that path a lot.
And do you think that you don't, because if you go, what's going to happen to the brand?
There's some of that.
You know, that I feel like there would be responsibility or weight on your shoulders at this point that would be hard to kind of walk away from.
Yeah. There's always that, like, kind of, as the editor position has been passed from person to person, there's always kind of this, like, we don't feel like we own the thing. It's like we're stewards of it. Like Nick and Johnny, I know we've joked around like, oh, Justin put himself on the cover again, and it's like, I just shake my head. I shake my head because it's like,
I didn't know we told them we talked about that.
We did that in Florida.
If only you guys knew that, like, ultimately on paper, yeah, that's my decision, but not really. Like, we pick 3 covers and we test them, and whichever one is the one that people are most likely going to buy, that's the cover. Or, like, I'm on the cover because last minute some story dropped off and I had to throw something together in a week and build a project and photograph it and make an article, so it's like, it's always funny to like, oh, if you only knew the backstory from some of the stuff, like some of the kind of the duct tape and rubber bands that are holding things together in this big shiny facade of Fine Homebuilding. But anyway, yeah, so it's like, to answer your question, Tyler, there's some of it is a struggle of, well, is it just the grass is greener on the other side kind of a thing? Like, because I have a good job, it pays well, I have security, whatever that means, for a job that could end tomorrow or go on for 20 years. I just wonder, like, all right, so I'm going to go off and I'm going to be on my own. Am I going to get a week into that and go, what the hell did I do this for? Like, this is awful. Now I got customers sending me emails all the time that they're pissed off, and I got subs chasing me for money, and I don't know where my next job is going to be, and my truck broke down, and like, did I really make a good move here? Like, is that moving up in the world? But at the same time, like, there's just so many interesting challenges right now in building. It is like, I was having this conversation recently with somebody that, like, this dawned on me. I remember it very specifically being at JLC, and I said to myself, I'm like, I got to take a step back from this crowd. And I actually stood there and I looked at the whole crowd, and I'm like, I just want to get a feel for what's going on. Like, because that's part of my job, is like, where are we going next? What's the vibe? Like, what are all these different companies doing? What's everybody clamoring for? And I realized, like, it just kind of struck me like, wow, building in the last 15 or 20 years has changed more than it has in probably 50 to 100 years before that. Like, literally 15 or 20 years more change in the last 100. And the reason why is, think about this. Let's go back to like anytime between 1950 and the year 2000. I could take any carpenter and put them on any job site, and there's a pretty good chance that they're going to be totally comfortable with what's going on, because everybody built the same house. And I mean, the houses were different looking, whether it's a colonial or a raised ranch or whatever, but they were all the same house. It was either concrete block or poured foundation walls. It was 2x from the mud sill up to the rafters. It was fiberglass bats in the wall cavity, wallboard on the inside. The outside was plywood with Tyvek, maybe tar paper on the roof or maybe on the walls. That's it. Every house was the same. Now think about what you guys are doing. You got Henry Blueskin on one project, ICFs in the foundation of another. You got high performance details. You've got 6 different kinds of flashing tapes and sealants coming together. It's like, it's crazy how much more a builder needs to know now than he did before. And so you got that going on the one hand, and all these products, right? It's not like, so that was the other thing, is you go back to something like every builder used house wrap. Well, you had Typar, you had Tyvek, you had Owens Corning made their version of it. Dow has a version, but it's like, it's all the same thing, really. Like, they're almost like commodities, right? Like, whether you had Georgia Pacific or Louisiana Pacific plywood, it's plywood. Now it's like, you better know everything about that product you're putting in, because it's totally different than the other guy's product. It's not a commodity anymore.
Like, everything's proprietary at this point.
Everything is proprietary, and none of those companies care about working with each other. So it's like, you go into the lumber yard and it's not commodity products anymore. It's like, well, what do I need to know about Azek versus Boral? Like, those are wildly different trim products that are sold right next to each other. And somebody might be making that decision based on just the price, or like, they both install like wood, right? Like, God, no, man, you're going to have your ass handed to you when you go to install it and try and make that look like wood. So you got that. That's one part of it, right? But then on the other part of it, you have, what you guys have talked about extensively, is like, there's no workforce coming up. Like, our farm team of like trade schools and kids going into like formal apprenticeships and stuff, gone. Like, yes, there's still some pockets. And I heard you guys hint briefly about wanting to work with, work to start up trade schools and programs and stuff. And like, yes, please do it, please. But that kind of stuff, for the most part, is gone. Like, we've lost kids to 4-year colleges. It's not cool to be a builder. It's not socially respectable to be a plumber. Everybody
talking about it's totally cool to be a builder.
Yeah.
See, I think I would challenge that.
Put my hands up.
Yeah, I think for the last, I would say 3 years, that mindset has changed, where now it is cool.
Whenever Nick hit IG is when it changed.
5 years
I still
ago.
feel like we're looking at this with blinders on.
Yeah, you are.
We're looking
100%.
at this from
All right.
inside this little circle.
You guys are doing amazing work, yeah, but you're also preaching to the choir. And everybody listening to this already knows the stuff I'm saying. So I'm not changing that either. But the point being that houses got way more complicated to build, right? Because all these products. And then you have this workforce that they aren't going to formal school. They're not like, it's not in the numbers and with the respect that it used to have. In fact, the people that probably are building nowadays are learning how to build from the guys who are still building like it's 1966. So like we're really in this crazy maelstrom of trouble right now. And so I was kind of standing back at JLC and it was like, holy cow, who's helping these people figure it out? Like who's helping these builders in the field, like who are just wading into trouble, figure out how to make Schluter tie into this and whether or not Advantech works with that and all that stuff. And so it occurred to me that like, we've all got so much work to do to help. And so that's what kind of reinvigorates. This is where my struggle comes in, is like, that's where I go, I've got this duty at Fine Homebuilding and Green Building Advisor, which are both technically under my job and I'm in charge of them. Like I gotta make sure that we're using these platforms to really help people navigate this stuff. But then on a more personal note, it's like, I want to get out there and do it. I want to figure out how to do that detail so that it's simpler. And I want to be the one who gets to have a phone call with Steve Basic and go, no, I think the tape should be over here. Like, I think I get what you're doing, but I think what you're doing is not buildable.
Said no one to Steve Basic.
Yeah, no, we did a whole passive house project with Steve Basic out in Falmouth. So I hung out with him for like a whole summer. It was interesting.
I don't think I'd ever say to him, yeah, I don't know about that detail.
He would just stare at you until you retracted that comment.
Exactly.
I remember talking to this builder who was good friends with him. This was before Jake. And he was like, oh God, having Steve as the architect is like a nightmare with clients. Cause like you'll take them in to look at a project and the client will be like, I have this vision. I want to do this in the kitchen. And Steve will just go, that's a terrible idea. We're not doing that. Just like no,
but he's open
doesn't
about
care.
It. Like that, and
yeah.
he'll say that. He's like, yeah, I'm very straightforward. There's no fluff with me.
Yeah, I've been that way for a long time, but then I realized that there's a different cadence on how I need to deliver that information, and that will go a lot further. Like I had a realtor come in and go, I don't know what color this is, and I was like, hey, I think you should change your tone, and she's like, what do you mean? I go, you could have came in and said, can we have this color in this room? Instead of the approach, it's the same thing, same goal. It's just the approach. I don't know. I used to be like, I still do a lot of it. I agree. I can read you guys' eyes. Is that you get what you get from me, but I've tried to tone it down where I know I'm short because I feel like I don't have a lot of time in my day to devote to BS. So as soon as I smell it, I call it out and we move on. But I have tried to kind of, especially with clients, I try and guide that way with a little bit more of, I don't know, empathy, that they just don't know enough with their question or their direction, and it's got to be someone's job to kind of guide that, not go, that was stupid, because every time I've ever been told that my entire life, my mind doesn't recorrect whatever my thought was that got me there. It then goes into this turmoil of like, I'm an idiot, like what's happening, and it doesn't help the situation to get to a place that is naturally where it should be.
No, it's not helpful to anybody.
No. And that's why he's always scared me, Steve.
He's always scared me.
Because he'll tell you what you don't want to hear.
No, but it not even, I don't have to even ask for it. It just gets told to me, and I'm like, great, high five. I've learned nothing. You've done nothing for me. Where do I stand?
He's scheduled part 2.
That's fine. Did he? I'm not scared.
No, I know. Really? I know he's gonna listen to this, and he's gonna send a text. Get ready for part 2, boys.
Yeah, I heard that.
I get it.
I heard that episode where he wanted to talk to you about is craftsmanship still alive, Johnny? And I was talking to Tyler offline about an episode you guys did a long time back with Kevin O'Connor, who was riding you hard about like being overly romantic, and
I'm still scarred from that.
Favorite episode.
Like honestly, I'm still kind of pissed about it. Like as a listener, I was like, that's just like he's just bullying Johnny. Like it's not.
Yeah, I'm not that skilled, literally. No,
yeah,
not even that word, but like, it was perfect. But like, I'm not skilled to be able to talk that conversation with him. Like, I'm not even comfortable doing it. Like, I'm rather just put me on a job site and I'll prove to you why my thought process is better, because the product will last longer, people will love it more. But I don't know how to get there in a conversation where.
Right, that's where Kevin,
Kevin had things.
So you decided to start a podcast.
I know. Trust me, that's why I'm quiet some days where I'm like, I'm an idiot today. Hold off. But no, I mean, I don't know. I think I walked into a lot of situations where the sucker punch was waiting for me with Kevin.
Yeah.
I didn't know how to maneuver around it because I was not prepared. Like, we don't prepare for these. We just kind of walk into them and have fun.
And it's not you're at a disadvantage automatically, because how do you defend thinking that like romantic aspects of building make sense to anything other than it's romantic? It's like arguing about whether poetry is good. Like I look at it and I'm like, this is just nonsense, because if they wanted to write something with meaning, why didn't they just say what they wanted to say? Why do they have to like make it so complicated? When somebody else is like, oh, that's where the art comes in. That's what makes it beautiful. And like, we're not going to argue about that. It's like it's two different sides of the same coin. It's not. I think it'd be freaking awesome if you built a house at diagonal sheathing. I'd be the first one up there being like, I don't want to be there on the first one. I want you to figure out how to do it. And then when you do it on the second house, let's do an article about that. That would be badass. Like, because you're going to know like, oh, we figured out how to do it. Here's the trick. Like, here's how to start. Here's how to sequence it to make the work more efficient. Like, let's dig in and get
I can just see it now. All the zip panels on a 45 going across his whole house.
I still won't go to that conversation because I'm not smart enough to hold my own.
But
I don't know.
I've always felt with our relationship, my relationship with Fine Home Building, and with you, Justin, that you guys have had almost the big picture in mind. And I mean, even as far as gathering everyone at the builder show and then getting people involved with the magazine or shooting articles or kind of jockeying to get everyone on board. I feel like as a company, you guys have always had the big picture in mind. Mm-hmm. And I think that we've dealt with a lot of companies, we dealt with a lot of vendors who don't necessarily have that big picture in mind. And I guess, I know I've spoken to you about it before, but do you feel as though a lot of like, even we had the conversation earlier about posting pictures and detail shots, and Nick wants to see if it really looks good in this light. Like, I want to put forth everything and basically put myself on blast to show that, hey, this is why we're doing things a certain way. And I don't know if that's the case with everyone, and I don't know if a lot of people are putting up a front or a facade, but I feel as though you guys have always had the industry's best interest in mind while creating maintaining a business. But it doesn't seem that a lot of the dealings that we have, that the people are on the same page, as whether it's you guys, it's kind of our mindset of the podcast. And I think that the industry is kind of heading in that way, and it's sad to see. But do you feel that everyone's kind of in it for themselves at this point, or that even with the people that you're dealing with, that it's kind of every man for themselves, take what you can get, and just exploiting the industry?
Are you talking about this from the point of view of like everybody's a content creator now?
No, I mean, that would probably be one, yes. But then also, I think that a lot of vendors are looking to these people basically to either put tools in their hand, and now they have free content, and pull money from ad budgeting, where it's like, if you had the big picture of the industry and the longevity of the industry in 20 years from now, it wouldn't necessarily be putting tools in the hands of influencers as much as protecting fine home building to continue what they've been doing for the next 25 years.
Right.
Yeah. And I think that that's probably on a content creator level, but also on an advertisement level, and then also just as all of these vendors and all of these tool companies, and it seems as though everybody's in it for themselves and getting their color on your phone screen.
Right. I don't know. I mean, you give us a lot of credit. Makes us sound like we're really know what's going to happen 20 years from now. I mean, I think it's simpler than that in that we just want to always be giving people the best information we can, and kind of just be the thought leaders. So like while there's always all this noise going on with like the latest fads or this thing's, I'm trying to think how the best way to put this. It sort of doesn't matter. It's like, it feels like we're like the tortoise and the hare. Like we're just kind of moving along. We're doing our slow pace. Like TikTok comes out and we don't join it because like, whatever, we don't need that. And then it goes away again. And, our mission is just still, we're not going to jump on the bandwagon and do the newest, coolest thing if that means that you're going to have a lower quality experience. Does that make any sense?
Yeah, but how about even from the perspective of you guys have been around for however long, and I know you probably even have personal relationships with certain, right? But certain advertisers that you think that you have this relationship and this rapport built up, and now all of a sudden there's a new market for them and they're pulling money from you, which, I feel as though should be a standard, and there should always be funds allocated or ways to protect what you guys are doing. They're now pulling that and putting it into these people who are kind of hot right now or right now, where the long term, 25 years from now, is somebody going to know this one influencer, or, are they going to know Fine Home Building? And it seems very selfish, and it just kind of seems like people whoring themselves out.
Yeah, I think what's going on there, Tyler, and I get what you're saying now. Sorry, I was a little slow on the uptake on your description, but it's not my fault. I'm stupid. I
already used that. Sorry.
Did you? Sorry. I'm trying my hardest. I think what complicates it and why some of what you're talking about happens is that a lot of these big companies hire an agency, and there's a huge disconnect between the agency and the
reality.
Yeah. So but there's the other example. So like you guys, I'm sure obviously Huber, and I'm sure that you have respect for their products, and they're crushing it in a lot of ways. One of which is that they take it very seriously, and they build products that are awesome and reliable, and they try and do like this full suite of solutions so that you have one-stop shopping and everything ties together and is tested to work together, which speaks to my making the marketplace less complicated for the builder so that you're more likely to install it correctly. And therefore you don't go, oh yeah, zip system, that stuff sucks. It rots out in no time. And it's like, no, it doesn't. You just installed it wrong. And you installed it wrong because the manufacturer did a crappy job educating you. But they don't. Here's the deal, though. Huber doesn't have an agency. Huber does their own sales deals.
It's direct.
They get it. So they will always come to us. And we have a great relationship with them. And we love them, and they love working with us. But there's other companies that just farm it out. And the agency full of 22-year-old girls who always seem to be named Brittany for some reason. Every agency has a girl named Brittany. They don't. I'm gonna be in so much trouble after this podcast. They don't know who we are. They just look at our numbers on a sheet, and so it's that's where the disconnect is happening. So they're going, oh, this YouTube star over here has this many unique views per month. That's what we want to bring back to Sherwin-Williams or Anderson Windows and say, hey, look what we got for you. We got you this YouTube guy who's got 1 million views. And then they go, cool. Like, here's your money. Let's go make it happen. And it's not, it's not a long-term play, because those same YouTube stars they're not making the same kind of lasting information that we're working really hard to make. I mean, the amount of effort that goes into making one piece of content for us would probably blow people's hair back. I mean, like, if you write an article for us, Tyler, the number of times that we read that, and the number of different people who read it, and the number of filters that passes through, and the number of conversations you and I have back and forth with questions and dialing it in and perfecting it and fact checking it before it goes out, like, that's a ton of work. That's not just me.
Define a ton of work, because you built that up. I want to know, like, what if you said, Nick or Tyler, write this article for, Set in the Mud Bed. He spends, I don't know, Tyler, how much time do you think that you invested in putting that article together? You personally.
So we shot that thing in a half a day. I mean, that was a really quick one.
All right, so shoot is a half a day. Tyler, you probably spent a half a day just kind of organizing your thoughts, right?
Yep.
All right, so we're into it for a day.
Yep.
From there.
So basically, when I work with Justin, or what I've kind of found to be best.
It's different, Nick, because I'm really good, so I'm super fast. So, I mean, I'll have this thing turn around like that.
Dude, I know you're cocky, but hold on.
Nick uses the same line.
I am so not cocky. I have the least self-confidence. So go ahead, Tyler.
Basically, Justin will create an outline for me. Right. Here's some photos. Here's the direction that I'm thinking it's taking, which I'm sure takes a couple of hours for him to upload photos. He takes so many photos. Get them organized, go through them, and then pick a sequence and start wrapping his head around logistics of the article and structure of the article. And then I have to sit down for a few hours and kind of give it a first pass. Like, hey, here's a few sentences to this, a few sentences this, describe this picture. So I'm sure at that point, it's a day or two between the two of us kind of working through that. And then it's back and forth, kind of passing it back and forth. Okay, now let's expand on this. Let's revise this. I think this feels cluttered. I don't know as far as hours go, because I'm only dealing with it on my end, where it's like, here, you need an hour revision here, an hour revision there. But I'm sure, a small article that I probably have, if we spend a day shooting, another 8 hours between sitting down, writing an article, answering text messages, emails, all of that stuff.
So for you, 2 days. So Justin, you got a day to shoot, a day to upload photo. How many days roughly do you think you're spending on that article?
For something like that, I mean, that was a pretty easy slam dunk article. It was just a straight how-to. So we just basically track it from A to Z. We just we gotta start people here and get them to there without them getting lost, and pass along the info. So, I would say production wise, I mean, it's tough to say, because, we're working on a bunch of things at once, but we have the first meeting on it where I pitch it to the whole rest of our production team. So I have an art director in there, I have a copy editor, I have a deputy editor, and we go, here's what Tyler did. Let me walk you through the whole process. Let me take questions from you. You guys beat it up. We'll have a review of this. And then we go, cool, this is smelling good. Let's talk about how we want this thing to look. And then I go, all right, here's how I think it's going to pace out. I think it's appropriate that we're going to do 4 pages for this, or 6 pages, whatever it is. I want to start with this. I think a natural point to break the spread, which is a 2-page part of the magazine, is we're going to get up to this point, and then we're going to turn the page and we're going to start this thing. And then I think I'm going to need a drawing here, because words are going to lose you. I need to be able to illustrate. And here's what I think that drawing is going to look like. And then I scratch that out. The art director then takes all that stuff and he thumbnails out the whole article. So he does a little miniature sketch version, like a storyboard of how everything is going to roughly proportion out. Then we take that back. We revise the article to match that. And then when it's all done and polished up, I kind of hand it in, and it gets read by 2 other editors, and they do a line edit where they go through and they just beat the hell out of it. And they go, we need more here. This isn't clear. I fact check this and I'm not sure that's right. Blah, 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 blah. You know, Tyler references this, but the Tile Council of America says that it needs to be 1 inch and he says 3/4. Can you go back to him and ask him why? That kind of stuff. Then it gets through and it goes to grammatical check, like copy edit, you know, and that's Samantha does that. And she's not a builder. She's just making sense of it. Like, if I can follow this, you guys did it. If I can't, you didn't do it. And then after that, it goes to layout. Usually 1 or 2 art directors spend, a couple of days on it at least for a simple layout, pulling all the photos in, talking to illustrators, saying, you know, going back and forth about, here's the scrap art, here's what I think it should look like. Can you do a first round and send it to us? They send that to us. I look at that and say, okay, this is good enough to send to Tyler. I send that drawing to Tyler and say, here's what I want to do. Is this correct? Tyler goes, no, you screwed this up. And then we go back and do that whole round again. So that's, and then, so now that once we finally have that layout in hand, then we all get together as a group and we review it and we say, did this thing do what we wanted it to do? Did it meet expectations? Do we need to switch this photo with that one? Let's change that. Let's add a page here, whatever it is. Then it goes back to Tyler. Tyler reads it and he goes, you guys tweaked this and now that's wrong. This is wrong. I want to add this sentence. I don't like what you did here. Then from there, it gets read by me, Matt, another editor, Samantha again, Jen, me again, Samantha again, and out the door. So it gets read by, I don't know how many people that is. A bunch. A lot of times.
I'm at like 10 man days at that point.
It's a lot. And that's a simple article.
I do the same thing on my emails. Everyone I send out, I do the same thing. Send it to my wife. Let her read it. Then go back and forth.
It's like Johnny hasn't got back to me for 9 days. He's got another day. So another day, it's going to his copy editor.
If you look at somebody on YouTube who's going to set up a GoPro, film something, there's basically no fact checking. There's none of this coordination. There's not a lot of hands on deck, and it's just pumping out content for whatever the sake of pumping out content is. Is it necessary? You know, you guys are basically protecting the audience from making mistakes. You're protecting yourselves from giving out false information. It seems as there would be an extreme high value on the content that you're putting out, but instead these companies are going to people who just have more exposure at this point.
Right. Well, not even more exposure. Maybe they're just exposure in a certain category or a certain platform. It's also not a strictly fair comparison because you take a guy like Matt Reisinger or Essential Craftsman on YouTube or what you're doing, Nick, and it's not. I'm not saying, well, Nick's not doing enough work. Like he's not fact checking it with 10 people. We're just not doing the same thing. Nick is taking a job that he's working on, and he's bringing that job to life for an audience. So he's got Doug. Doug's his name, right? So he's got Doug shooting what's going on, and they make kind of a story out of it. Whereas what we try to do, sometimes we do that. Most of what we do is like, oh, okay, Tyler, you've got this going on. What's the story here? Like, what is the nut of this thing? What can we, like, bringing to bear all of our resources, all of our skills, all of our experience doing this, what can we extract in order to tell this story so that the next person picking it up and go, I've got everything I need that I can do this job flawlessly. And that it's just a different thing. I mean, I could also come down to your job and just shoot video of you doing it. And you could talk. And that for a lot of people is going to be fine. Like, that's great. It's just a different slice. And maybe some people feel like what we're doing is antiquated and it's not necessary because you can just go onto YouTube and you could watch somebody in their garage showing you how to clean a carburetor. I don't need to go to tech school to learn that, you know? I don't need to subscribe to Automotive Magazine or whatever it is. I'll just watch 3 YouTube videos and figure it out. But I don't know. Does that sort of answer your question, or does it complicate it?
No, I think it does. It just kind of blows my mind where everything's headed. And you know that a lot of these companies and a lot of these vendors and a lot of the advertisers are pulling from what they've invested in you and going, basically to wherever's going to bring them a higher return right now, rather than
more digital eyeballs,
rather than
at the moment.
big picture, rather than 20 years from now, where, where's Instagram going to be? I doubt Instagram's going to have a 38-year run. You guys have had a 38-year run at this point, It's kind of crazy to me that there's almost no loyalty there.
I'm kind of, I mean, not to take a sidetrack, but I'm a little bit bummed out. Like, what happens when Instagram is no longer a cool thing? Like where everybody's hanging out and sharing stuff, like we sort of saw Facebook.
Yeah, but look at before Facebook. It was message boards, contractor talk.
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
Like it went message boards to, Facebook to Instagram to, YouTube was similar time. It'll just be something else.
Yeah.
You know what freaks me out is that I've gotten to know some of these people that have created this persona on social media as an influencer, and no one checks them. No one does a fact check on them.
Yeah.
I've talked to subs that have worked for them, and it's an absolute crapshoot.
Oh,
and that's me being nice. And they don't pay bills. They don't do this. But yet I watch them on YouTube. I watch them on different platforms be this showcase. And it's like, no one should be following them.
Johnny, I don't want to. There's people that I've heard you specifically say that you look up to, that I know the behind the scenes, and I go, they're an absolute shit show. We've been on their builds, and it is a nightmare. Yeah,
I've probably learned that since then.
Yeah, maybe.
It's like anything. As soon as you learn it, so I think that's why. I mean, I know I hold my tongue a lot of the time because I don't know if I can hold up to the standard that like Tyler's putting at Fine Home Building. Like when I got in the first article with you guys, I was absolutely blown away that this is something. It started with this old house, watching the TV show, and then jumping. I was never a reader, ever.
Yeah.
I'll listen to audio over anything else. If there's anything, it was Fine Home Building. Like my wife, we had a flood in the basement the other day. Another pipe broke. And
for those listening, Johnny rolled his eyes.
Yeah, I live in an old farmhouse, but it's funny. The only books that she saved, she's like, I grabbed some books that were wet, blah blah, and brought them up in the kitchen. They were all old Fine Home Building books that I've talked about. That like that's what got me through the toughest times of my career when I didn't know enough. I had taken on too much, and the only thing that had my back was the pages of the books and the magazine. And that's what she pulled upstairs and was drying on our kitchen countertops.
Yep.
But it's like, Tyler, you bring up a great point, is that these people are, they're savants at a way of being good at the algorithm and getting views. But is their content vetted? I can't tell you how many. I like Kyle from R&R. I'm not calling the kid out, but if he puts in one more like of those footings for a post that is straight in on concrete that's been set already, that it can slide straight out. There's no hook in it. I don't care how many times you say it. That can slide right out. There's got to be vibration. There's got to be something involved in that for that rebar to hold into that concrete. But yet he's got 200 whatever billion people watching him.
Yeah.
And dude, I need one structural engineer to come in there and go, not right.
Yeah, and suddenly that's gospel now. Like that's how you do that.
Yeah, but that could fail in a windstorm, and who's liable? No one's going to go back to him in a situation, but like that's not vetted information.
But I mean, it's tough though. Like I don't want to stop Nick from making videos about his projects. He should make them. That's awesome. Like that's super cool. I mean, there's a ton to learn there about how Nick and his crew do stuff. And I guess
with respect to that, I mean, same thing with why we post there. I look for the feedback. If we're doing something wrong, I want to know. Or if someone comes with a better, a better way to do it, I'm always open to that.
Right.
But I think there still needs to be that kind of dad in the situation, like a Fine Home Building, or
Oh yeah, I'm not looking. I mean,
no, agreed. But I think there's plenty of of people coming up and doing this and making changes and documenting that. I think you do a really good job of documenting. What Fine Home Building's doing is they're curating knowledge for you. You're documenting what you do.
Right.
There's a difference.
Right. It's a different thing. We're using your job sites to fill blank spots in our curated library.
And that's what, like, we talk amongst ourselves. Like, we don't want to be the how. We don't want to tell you how you should do. Like, this is the right way to do it. We're just going to tell you why. This is why we do it. You're going to see the how we do it, but it's like we're not claiming that we're the an expert tile installer or the best waterproofer. It's like, no, this is why we're doing this.
So do you think works for you?
Do you think that the burden is then on the viewer, like, and the person who follows you on Instagram? Like, it's up to them to figure out that you're not trying to be the authority. You're just trying to share what you're doing.
Yeah, that feedback is usually not constructive. So it's just, I'm not, like, I was going to ask earlier, but I'm not looking at the analytics of how what is better for us to post. It's just like I'm just posting what we do.
Right.
From the video side, like, Doug digs into the analytics. He pays attention to what makes sense, but I'm not like, the only reason our format changes is because I get bored with things. And I'm like,
me too.
What if we did this? Or like one of the guys in the shop mentioned Bitch and Rides, the show. So we all sat there for 20 minutes and watched the show. I'm like, let's do that.
Yeah, I'm exactly like you, Nick. Like, I don't look at the analytics either, but we have to have meetings about them, and I have to pretend like I know what we're talking about. But I mean, I'm like, oh, we're all locked home with coronavirus. We're going on Zoom, or we're going to do all of our content on Zoom. Start the webinars, and they're like, I go to my boss and I go, can I sign up for this account? She goes, sure. I'm like, cool. First webinar tomorrow. Like, what's it going to be on? I don't know. We're going to do something now. Like, let's just start doing it. I don't want to have meetings about it. I don't want to, like, let's just figure it out.
Yeah.
And
you have to roll with it.
If you guys haven't checked it out, I got to give them a shout out. Building Science and Beer, if you guys have heard of this kind of little community discussion group. And since the coronavirus thing landed and they can't meet up, it used to be a once a month meetup in Portland, Maine. And it was like this local building supplier would host them. Since nobody can go anywhere, they started doing it through Zoom, and we connected with them and said, hey, let's work together on this, because we're psyched about it. You guys are psyched about it. We can give you some more reach, etc. So now we're kind of partnered up with them, and every Thursday night there's I swear it's the best content in high performance building that I've seen in a long time. Like the level of brain and builder and architect that is in that digital room talking about stuff is mind blowing. Like just absolute geekery, solving problems that are like, oh my God, you guys have to tune into it. I think this Thursday, by the time people hear this, it'll already be done, but we're doing whether you can do a vent-free roof assembly without using spray foam, whether you can do it with fluffy insulation, as we put it. The short answer is you can't really safely, but
so what I think is,
why even dig into that?
Spoiler
Was that
alert.
ever really an option?
Yeah, because first of all, there's a lot of the manufacturers want to know if it's possible, because suddenly then fiberglass is really relevant to high performance, unvented roof assemblies, because, oh my God, you guys figured out how we can show people to use our product without having to have roof vents. Cool.
Yeah, but haven't we always known that you need to have roof ventilation when you have fiberglass insulation?
Yeah, but the point was, is it possible to do it without, by being really creative?
No,
by having an interior vapor barrier and a membrane and
makes sense. I feel like you're just complicating things.
Oh yeah, that's what we do.
Could you do a rock wool? Is it a moisture issue?
No, you have to have a certain amount of vapor impermeable insulation based on your climate.
Dew point.
Yeah, exactly. And so that's why people turn to closed cell spray foam. Spray foam is you guys talked extensively with Kyle Mock about spray foam. We don't have to go there again.
Right.
We're always trying to push the envelope. And this group, BS and Beer, is all about pushing that envelope in, an hour and a half per week. And it is just super cool.
Well, I like what's interesting and what I like about this is that you said it was in Portland, Oregon, right?
Portland, Maine.
Maine.
The other progressive Portland.
Yeah,
There's two Portlands, and there's Texas. And
I knew I was going to get it wrong.
Both progressive.
Yeah.
But
there's like four places that are cool to be a builder in the country, and two of them are Portland.
So it's in Portland, Maine. It was local. Now they decided to make it a Zoom thing. I'm sure, I can only imagine that it's a growing network now.
Yes.
That when we're all through this, that network's going to be huge, and they're not going to do a local meet. They'll probably meet up locally for fun, but it's going to grow into something where it's, no, hey, we meet once a month digitally, and this is the way.
What is that, cake? Is that cake, John?
No, that's chicken, cauliflower, a little cheese sauce.
No condiments, though.
Wait, I thought you didn't like sauce.
Cheese sauce, I do.
Who eats cauliflower?
Cheese isn't sauce. It's just melted cheese.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, that's not a sauce.
It's called heaven, bro.
But I think that's with COVID and everything. And I talked to an architect earlier today about this. Is like, this is going to change, and people are going to meet like this, and they're taking this opportunity to expand their networks in all factors of their life. They're connecting with their family members that over Zoom when they probably don't even see their family members that much.
Yeah,
and it's because it's giving us. I keep saying it, but it's like we're in one big factory reset right now, where everyone's like, hey, like, we're gonna shut the lights out for a second, rethink what your approach is to life, and here's your opportunity to kind of restart part of that.
Oh, do you have any idea how many meetings we've had and conversations around Fine Home Building about we should do webinars? And then suddenly, like, you force us and it's like, all right, let's do one. And then it's like, yeah, let's do them. Let's do webinars constantly.
That was easy.
Yeah. And you're like, yeah, exactly. You're like, well, that was super easy.
Yeah, I've been talking about putting an official safety plan in place for my company since I started hiring people. We go into COVID and hey, you know what we need to go back to work is a safety plan. Great. Let's do one for COVID.
Because Boston required it.
Right.
You're absolutely. Tell that part.
Well, Boston required it. Clown.
Yeah, I mean, how many times at the office we're printing out photos? Like, I wish we could just get this to be a digital process. Like, COVID, digital.
Right. It's just like all of these things. It just was, having the time to actually put them into you
know what?
I was hoping I was going to get shut down so I could finish the girls' bathroom that I started like a year ago, and it was going to be COVID new bathroom, but never happened.
Yeah, see, I think the flip side of that, to Tyler's point, is like it also illuminates those things where you're like, man, if I only had more time, I'd finish that bathroom.
Right.
And then you suddenly have more time, and you're like, yeah, that wasn't the reason I'm not finishing the bathroom.
Now I don't want to go to Home Depot because everyone's there.
Yeah.
True. John, how's that dinner, man? He doesn't even have his headphones on.
He's muted.
I muted you.
Muted, so
Oh.
I hear him chewing.
So I'm like a 12-year-old kid, and I cut up everything first. So I can eat
I'm the same way.
everything.
I'm the same way. Listen, Tyler has the same lunch every day. So talk about a 12-year-old kid.
Yeah, that's true.
Did you ever tell him what you have for lunch, Tyler?
I've been switching it up. Usually I eat the same thing for lunch every day.
What do you got?
Usually I eat peanut butter and honey, and then a piece of fruit and a yogurt.
For lunch?
Every day.
That's crazy.
Why not?
I'm
There's
just
no
as crazy.
meat or vegetables or anything?
No, I mean,
Well,
I
he has
usually
a
don't pack
snackables.
meat and vegetables with my lunch.
Dude,
I don't know how many people pack vegetables for lunch.
I'll bring like chicken and vegetables and
Really?
warm it up, or if it's a sandwich,
I
then
don't-
it's like
I mean,
a cold cut sandwich.
I typically don't use customers' microwaves,
Oh well,
so
a lot of guys have their own microwave in their truck. You got a
Really?
whole box truck.
no, I don't have that luxury, man. Not down here.
I guess the other option would be cold cuts.
I guess so.
So the
I
luxury of a microwave.
I do the same thing all the time, where so much that like in the morning I'll go and get like my Tropicana drinks, that if I sit out front of the store, the cashier will actually go and get the drinks for me and have them at the cashier waiting for me, my 2 Tropicanas. Because I'm like, I'm on a call, blah, blah, and I'll walk in, and he's like, I got you. and they're already there. Like every store I go into, I order the same thing everywhere. Like even Panera. Remember we talked about the chunky cookie? By the way, people have DM'd me since Panera's closed and be like, hey, Chick-fil-A's got great cookies. Like,
all the stoners.
It's so many people hit me up. I'm like, that's what I'm known for is cookies. Awesome.
Yeah, I don't stray that much. Once I find something that I like,
same.
I usually there's no chance.
Oh yeah, I'm totally like you go to a restaurant, like I'm always gonna go with the thing that I know I love, as opposed to like, didn't you guys just talk about this with Steve Basic? I feel like you had the exact
Maybe.
like why did I get this thing when I should have just stuck with that meal that I knew I liked already. Just get the thing you knew you liked. That's
Because
fine.
my wife will tell me to change it up, and I'm like,
I know.
okay, I'll give it a shot. All right,
know.
Now you ruined dinner. Thanks.
Yeah, my wife too. Yeah. Yep.
See, I think my wife did the same thing, and I went with it, and I actually prefer to change it.
Yeah.
I don't know.
That's the NS Builder style, though. You guys are progressive.
You're the exception.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't eat sushi before. Now I friggin' love sushi.
You're not one of us, Nick.
Yeah, seriously. Who likes sushi?
Me, right here. Oh, you don't?
Yeah, we were there that day.
I don't mind sushi.
Well, I was
Last
forced
time
to
I was
eat it.
Nick, we went and got sushi.
Yeah, we did. In the C10. Wait, did we
Heck
take the
yeah.
C10?
No, I think we went to, and then it wouldn't start.
That's true.
and then he came out to jump it. He came out to jump it, and then he's like, "Wait, what if I jump it and we go there, and then it won't start when we go to leave? Let's not take the C10."
Yeah, so we just drove. Yeah,
and then parked in an illegal spot
mm-hmm.
as a cop drove by and still didn't get ticketed. That was nice.
And us. Ride or die, baby.
That was pre-COVID.
So, Justin, you guys still running your podcast?
I'm not on it very much anymore. I handed it over to what happened was it was me and Brian and Rob, and Brian's son graduated high school, and he knew that when his son graduated high school, his wife wanted them to move somewhere. Like they were only staying in Connecticut for him to finish school. Gotcha. So they were out. They moved to South Carolina, and then Rob left.
That's a good spot to move to.
I know, Charleston too.
Seriously.
And then Rob left to take a job at Backcountry Hunters and Anglers, save the world of open spaces. And so I was kind of left on my own, and then I got promoted because they all left, so I didn't have as much time. So we just said, let's just make it a clean transition, and so they're kind of running on their own now. But I feel you guys' pain doing a weekly show is a lot of work.
They're still running weekly?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's Matt, Patrick.
Yeah, Rob, different Rob, and Kylie, who's our design editor. But, then Brian came back, and Brian runs Green Building Advisor now. So it all comes around. The guy who hired me at Fine Homebuilding, Roe Osborne, who was a killer editor, he just got laid off from JLC. So we brought him on as one of our stable of freelancers, and he's making articles for us again now.
That's awesome.
That's that whole investing in the future thing, Tyler, is you take the good people and you just give them something to do. Like just find that person who's really good at their job and just keep them busy making good content,
Yeah.
like scoop them up.
What about Keep Craft Alive?
Keep Craft Alive. Well, the latest thing that, and this is kind of unofficial, the thing that Rob and I have been talking about, and we've been talking about this with some trade school teachers. We've been having a bunch of Zoom meetings to hash this out.
So so everyone knows Rob's still part of Keep Craft Alive, correct?
Yeah, he left, but he kind of retained that executive director position, so he still runs that. As you guys know, we've been given scholarships for years. I think we do 16 scholarships every year to kids who go to trade schools, and we do the fundraisers that you guys know about and have helped us spread the word about and attend, which we appreciate. But we started talking to trade school teachers, especially with the coronavirus thing, and we said we want to better understand what you guys are up against. Like what's the struggle you guys are having in putting together curriculums and teaching these kids and doing all that stuff. And what we got back kind of unanimously was that, they want an organized curriculum. Like they want to be able to find everything they want to be able to teach a certain subject like framing or masonry all in one place, organized so they can easily get to it, which we've then started working on. And the other thing is they want complete video of full processes of building a house. So we're in very early talks of building a complete house as trade school material under the Keep Craft Alive banner. So it would be, we're not sure who it would be yet or where it's going to be, but the idea would be to cover it as, and it wouldn't be like, again, it wouldn't be building a house from 1970 like you'd find in a textbook of how to build a house. It would be building a house, probably at like the pretty good house level. So some, above code, but not like a passive house, not ridiculous, so that it has some longer shelf life. Cause we can't do this every year. So we need to shoot it in a way that's going to be relevant for a while, and not look dated or be useless for people. So we're working on that, and that's going to take a lot of resources, a lot of time, but I think that would be a dynamite all-in-one package, to be able to give that to all the trade schools and say, here, use this.
Sounds like my YouTube page.
Yeah. Don't you have like one video, Johnny?
Yeah, working on it. Okay. Second one's coming out. Documenting the whole process.
You should do one where they come and remodel an old 120-year-old house in Medford, New Jersey. Have all the students come do that and document it.
I mean, he's got a point. Like, not everyone wants to build new houses. Yeah. Some people want to remodel.
So I haven't even gotten the program off the ground. You guys are already shooting holes in it.
I was saying I got a guy for you.
Yeah, super slick. You guys can show how to build an entire house. What about remodeling though? I mean, what have you guys done for me lately?
It could be 2 series. It could be 2, right, Tyler?
Yeah, definitely.
Just saying.
Yeah.
I think it's sister.
Sister series.
Cousin. Something.
Tyler, we don't want you around any trade schools kids. Your attitude is detrimental.
Probably not a bad idea.
You'll probably connect with so many kids there.
I actually, while you were just saying that, I was thinking it would be so much fun for somebody to fund one of us to go to trade school for a year, like to take off from work and then just. I'm going to trade school and I'm going to start in the fall.
I would do it in a heartbeat. Our deputy editor Matt Milham, who's like,
he's the man.
He's the man.
I'm surprised he didn't invite me to his wedding. I was pissed.
I didn't even go to his wedding, so I think it was a small thing. But
he went. That was a cover for you, Tyler.
So he was he went into he was in the military for 10 years. He worked at Stars and Stripes, the military magazine, and then he came out and he used the GI Bill because he'd already gone to college. He used the GI Bill to go to trade school. Just kind of like, oh, this will be cool. Let's do this. And then he ended up combining journalism with building to work for us. But he's got it's just a super complete education. I'm really jealous of that. There's no gaps in his knowledge. It's not like he's an expert at everything, but he's done a little of everything, and he knows the fundamentals so inside and out that it's not like, oh yeah, this is how I learned how to lay out a roof rafter from Biff. It's like, no, this is how I learned how to do it from the textbook 3 different ways, calculator, on paper, and some other third way. It's really, I'm jealous of that.
Yeah. I'd also be interested to see how well I would do in an academic setting where it was something that I was reasonably interested in. Because there was literally nothing in school that I was ever interested in.
Was that all 4 of us in the same boat on that, or did you like school, Nick?
I went to trade school.
Oh, okay.
So I enjoyed high school. College was I basically put in as much effort as it required to graduate.
Yeah.
That's what I should have done.
For me, that was a lot of effort. That was all the effort to graduate, yeah.
It's funny, though, because I put in a ton of effort, and then I realized I understood, carpentry, and it came to me so much easier that I kind of just kept leaning into that.
Yeah, I'm same way, Johnny.
It was just, I finally get something, and I'm getting somewhere, and I don't have to go in reverse as fast as I learn something. I don't have to go backwards to kind of pick up the pieces, and it just seems so much easier. And maybe it was like sports I also got, don't get me wrong, I would do like a new drill, and I'd be like, I wouldn't be first in line, I'd be like 10th in line, so I could see it happen a few times.
Yeah.
And there was something about that where with carpentry, I could sit back and watch the people ahead of me do it, and I got it like nothing. And then watch it 2 more times, then it's my way of doing it, and then I would tweak it to however I thought it would be faster or simpler to get the same quality result. And I never stopped. Even today, if you were to tell me when I was 16 to build the stuff I'm building today, I would not. I would think I'd be too overwhelmed.
Yeah.
But to take those steps to get here, it was never overwhelming. It was never too much, and I enjoyed every second of it.
Yeah, it just builds and it never gets old. Like, you're never gonna know it all. People are like, when are you gonna be done working on your house? I'm like, well, that's not the goal. I'm not trying to finish. I'm trying to just keep projects going forever.
Ask your wife about that.
Yeah, no.
I have.
No.
Pretty sure the goal is to finish.
Yeah.
I'm the closest, yeah. But meanwhile, we're sitting at dinner, and I'm like, what do you think if we rip this house down and put a garage and she'd be like, will you please shut up?
Yeah, that's like crazy ideas. I'm in my office of 3 years with a chop saw behind me.
Sure. I want to see Nick.
I also don't. I don't.
Yeah, Nick. I was gonna say, go look in. Is there HVAC back there?
Yeah, spray foam. My wife's like, kids can't sleep in here. There's spray foam exposed. I'm like, I mean, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Like whether there's a door on that or not. I mean, but you're right. It's not done. She's like, well, what about the baseboard I keep tripping over in the vanity? I'm like, it was supposed to kick out for Marley to stand on so she could brush her teeth. She's like, it doesn't work. I'm like, it never got done.
Call Ken. I got a guy for that. Just
Just tell Marley to stop brushing her teeth.
Now she's tall enough, like she can reach the faucet. It doesn't even matter anymore.
Now she's mad that it's not done. Yeah. It's I'm like, I get like 90% of the way through projects in the house, and then I just stop and I just move to something else because I get bored with it. But I don't even see it. That's the problem. Like, I haven't had baseboard in one section of my kitchen for like 8 years, and I don't have any plans to do it. Like, I'm like, I look at it, I'm like, oh yeah, there's still no baseboard there, and I'm like, oh, whatever. Like, it's. I
save all my closing for work. And then I leave everything open here. Like, I'm a closer at work. I pride myself in that. When I get home, like, I said it just the other day. I'm like, I'm finishing this room. I'm working on the shop. And then I turn to the wife and I'm like, we should, if we're going to stop mowing the lawn, have the boys mow it, we should do like a composting bin. I break up like Gerton's like thing he did. I'm like,
oh yeah,
he did that. I go, that could totally be a composting bin. We should do that. She's like, she looks at me with this look like that's like the next project, or like that's like tomorrow. And I'm like, oh, it's kind of immediate if you're gonna mow the lawn. And I'm like, my back's to the office, my left is the shop that's in pieces. And she's like, really? I'm like, yeah, it'd be pretty quick. I mean, I'm just saying.
Because what's better than starting a new project? I got up one weekend last summer and was like, what do you want to do today? And Aaron was like, it's pretty nice out. We could go for a hike, or we could do this. And I'm like, you know what we should do is we should build a little pizza oven in the backyard so we can make pizza. And she was like, yeah. And I was like, all right, I'll go to Lowe's. And I just left. Like,
she's like, she went to get dough and like pizza sauce. And you're like, whoa, this is going to take a few months.
Not like, finished.
It's just starting projects is like way better than finishing them.
I thought
finishing them is not satisfying.
No.
I thought about this hard the other day, is that like I have a big picture for this house that is like blow the back of the house out, bigger stuff. So like this is just like buying.
But doesn't that prevent you from like wanting to finish the office? Because it's like, that's the way I look at my house. And the reason I feel like I haven't finished anything is because my bigger picture would, like, all the stuff I would finish gets impacted by the bigger picture. It's like I'd rather just understand, draw, and design and understand what the big picture is, and then pick little pieces off it and then complete them one at a time.
Well, it's funny. I think the big picture is kind of unfeasible for me. Like, my dream is that, so I'm like, doesn't really matter if I finish this because I won't be satisfied.
Why is it unfeasible?
I don't know. Money, life, a lot of things.
But if you had that fully designed and then knew. Just have it fully designed, right? And then knew how that impacted your office. Then when you finish that office, you'd be like, boom, I'm like 2% there.
It doesn't even touch I've already drawn it. It doesn't touch the office. It's not an excuse. It's the fact that I'm so far from hitting that overall goal where I would be complete that having this stuff done is almost insignificant. It's weird.
That's
like,
where'd you get the pocket door from? I didn't ever notice the pocket door.
Dude,
that pocket door is awesome. I was so psyched when Johnny posted that.
Dude. And you know what? I didn't post it doing it because I hadn't done one in like 12 years myself. So I'm like, I'm not putting this up in case I screw this up.
Dude, like, when the guys put that the guys put that synchronized one in our office.
Ready? Watch this though. Watch. Oh yeah, that keeps going into the jam.
Wait, it's a little far back in there, man.
That's a couple inches in. This one's perfect. I don't know what happened with that one. That's a good inch and a half in the.
You drive a drywall screw back there at the right distance.
Just put a dowel in through the back of the baseboard.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, that's actually a good idea, Tyler. I like that.
I was trying to say drywall screw. I don't know why you was a dowel. That's fine. All right.
Domino.
We did the synchronized one in the office, and we've never installed this kit ever. The guys have never installed anything like it. Drop it off. I'm like, Doug will be here at 9. We're gonna film it. And the guys were like, "Is he serious?" I was like, "Yeah, don't worry about messing up. We'll cut it out." And it was like, they spent all day doing it, and I was like, "How'd it go?" They're like, "It went okay. Couple bumps." I'm like, "Video looks great, guys."
That's the crazy thing when I look at what you're doing, Nick. Is like all the projects you're working on have things that are constantly out of your comfort zone. It's like you're always doing. You're never doing like a pocket door. You're doing like some synchronized pocket door. You're like, God, I'm never gonna just be good at this. It's like I feel like it's
that's what I love. Like we have a project right now where there's a massive pocket door in it, and I walked in the office a couple weeks ago and I was like, hey, what are we doing for hardware on that door? And we all look at the drawings and the specs. We're like, oh, there's nothing spec'd. It said I think it said TBD. So we reached out to the architect. The architect's, oh, I don't know. Let me pick something. So they picked something, and he sent it. And I had asked, I think it was Mike or Ken. I'm like, hey, what'd they end up picking? And they sent me a picture. I'm like, we're not doing that. I said, what do you mean? Like the client loves it. I'm like, yeah, that's like an off the shelf. Like this is stupid. I'm like, this is gonna look like crap. That door is never gonna be closed. When you walk by it, you're gonna see this shiny chrome thing all the time. Let's think about this. Like we can be better than what we can buy off the shelf. And there's this guy, John, we talked about last week, Brentabuck. He in one of the closets he did this like basically like CNC routered like detail in the drawers, like super sexy. And I was like, take that, turn it vertical, and we'll CNC both sides of the door. So when the door is closed, all you do is you basically put your finger in this like recessed groove in the oak that has like this natural look to it. It basically looks like you like squeezed it.
It was on. Didn't Ken post it?
Yeah, Ken posted it on the story.
Posted it, yeah.
And when it's closed, you just put your finger in it, you push it shut, and then there's no hardware when the door opens. It's like, well, how are you going to pull it out of the pocket? We put a bumper on it, so you put your hand on it, and you push it, and it bumps the door out of the pocket. So there's no hardware. And when it's just, to your point, like, that's what I like about what we do, and thankfully have the clients that allow us to do these things, is that there's the, let me pick something, and we'll run with that, or it's, how can we be more creative with our solution? Can we come up with something that's different, that's better? And I had done a story the other day. There's oftentimes where it's like, you're just wasting the client's money. Like, that's stupid. Like, you could just buy something. And I was like, sure, let's do the math. It cost me $100 to design it, $300 to have it CNC'd, and we're done.
Or the other way around is have an architect design it that's off the shelf that still costs $500.
Architect, $1,000 for the hardware, and probably 4 hours for the guy to mortise and fit it in place and be done with it. So I'm into it for, let's just call it double the money to be safe.
I found that I tell my guy John, I'm like, if you're gonna go to the architect and designer, don't ask them what they want. If there's nothing there, suggest this and have this as the jumping off point. Mm-hmm. So wherever they go from there, you've already kind of curated where you want it to go.
Right.
But if you give them, they'll go in a catalog. They'll have an associate.
Right.
That doesn't.
Right. It's getting handed down to the low man on the totem pole. Like, figure this out.
So that's usually what it is, Justin. It's like we're given, a spec that is like run of the mill, something we're comfortable with,
mediocre,
and then we come back and say, hey, can we do this?
Yeah, I get you.
Like that pocket door for that specific pocket door was Simpson, whatever the standard one is.
Yeah, Simpson.
Or Johnson?
I think it's Johnson.
Johnson's pocket door, yeah.
I was like, dude, we're not. This is like a 250-pound, 2.25-inch oak pocket door. We're not using Johnson hardware.
Yeah, it's a no bueno.
So I was like, I talked to the guys at Mike at HD, and I was like, hey, I want a soft close, bump open, best top of the line hardware. And he's like, yep, we'll do a Hawa with a bump open, soft close. Great. Send the spec. And he's like, I've never even heard of this. I'm like, I'm telling you right now, it's far better than what you spec'd. He's like, all right, I'm cool with that. He goes, what's the bump open for? I'm like, because we're not using your handle. Like, this is going to be, and we show him. He's like, yeah, like, if I knew that was an option, I would have picked it. I'm like, right, that's what.
Here you go.
Here's the option. And Ken had that sample block made up of all the different sizes. I'm like, save that. Keep that
That's
there.
the thing.
And you're welcome.
But it's directly tied to the fact that when you go to a restaurant, you want to try the thing you've never tried before. Like, you're always pushing for like the next cool new thing. Like,
it's my
it's a new piece of hardware you've never heard of before. This one's higher end. This one's more complicated. Like, it's always like a new challenge of how to get it done, which is super cool. That's the way you get creative.
I just put cheese sauce on everything.
Yeah.
I mean, you really can't go wrong.
Seriously.
Sort of like cinnamon. It just makes everything better.
No.
What?
A little too hot.
No.
Cinnamon? What are you talking about? Think of a food.
What are you talking about?
Think of a food that has cinnamon that's not good.
Pizza.
All of them.
What?
I don't.
I'm not saying. Hold on.
Anything.
I'm not saying put cinnamon on anything. I'm saying any food that has cinnamon is good.
No, that's not what you said.
Yeah.
I said it wrong.
Put cinnamon on anything.
Yeah, don't do that. Don't do that. That's bad.
I'm like, sushi, pizza.
Listen,
steak?
I got an 8-week-old over here. I'm not sleeping.
Yeah, you should get back to back to that kid.
I gotta pass on. I don't even know what I just said for the last 2.5 hours. So
I blacked out.
Yeah.
This was appreciate you hopping on, man.
Once I had the cheese sauce, I was out.
I was done.
Yeah. Hopefully it helps somebody fall asleep listening to this.
Nah, dude, these are always so fun.
Yeah.
It's I can speak for I think all of us that we appreciate what you do at Fine Home Building and what you guys bring to the trades. We've been at some great fundraisers with you guys, and the partnership and the friendships that we've developed over the course of the last 4 or 5 years, whatever it's been, has been awesome. And I think it's really exciting to hear that you're pushing to keep that magazine alive. So if anyone's listening and doesn't subscribe to it, you should. It's cheap and it's fact checked, good information that then you can go create your own content based around it. But
what's funny is I used to my mom never knew what to get me, and I'd always tell her to get me renew my subscription.
Yeah.
For Christmas every year. It's like that stocking stuffer every single year.
And look, I mean, when you sign up, you get a choice of whether you want the print magazine. You don't have to get it. You sign up and you get access to everything we've ever done.
Who doesn't want a print magazine now?
Seriously, I save them like they're
a lot of people don't. A lot of people don't want it.
You know what? But I think that there'll be some nostalgia where it will come back.
That's what I'm thinking too. I think it's all just going to spin around.
I found a bunch of my old ones, and I did get rid of some of them. But when they come in, I put them on the table at work.
Like, what are your old ones?
Not as old as yours, but
like, what is that? 1999? Like, what,
no, like
what are the
1998. But it's like I take the recent ones, I drop them on the table at work, so when the guys are eating lunch, they can skim through them, and it's like
should have every new employee gets a subscription.
Yeah, Nick.
Oh, there you go.
You should get them a subscription for every new employee.
Man, that's another bonus I could add to.
And Green Building Advisor
incentive
company benefits.
Yeah, it looks good on a sell sheet there.
If you depend on that with me, you guys are definitely going out of business. For sure. You don't stand a chance. Average like one employee every 3 years. I'll buy you a third of a subscription per year.
And they flame out in spectacular fashion.
half of its family.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. How many brothers do you have?
Too many.
Every time I talk to you, like, yeah, my brother's working. Not that brother, a different brother. I got a different
brother. Yeah. I have 3 brothers and 1 sister. 5 of us.
Wow.
4 too many.
Yep.
You know?
I got three older brothers myself. I get it. And I feel like I got an accountant, a mechanical engineer, and an architect.
Yeah. So your parents were, oh God.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. And I was the youngest.
They're like, what happened? They let it go.
Yeah.
They were done. They were burnt.
Yep.
Put it in neutral.
Yeah. It's like, whatever. Who cares at this point?
All right, gentlemen. I appreciate you having me on.
Thanks for coming on.
Appreciate it.
And one last little word to anybody listening is all this content, Green Building Advisor, Fine Homebuilding, it's all reader written content. So just reach out to us. Like, find me on Instagram, fh@taunton.com. I guarantee you think that you're not good enough to be in the magazine, and I guarantee you are. You don't need to be some spectacular accomplished builder who's building 9,000 square foot mansions. We want you who's got a great way to, we did 2-piece baseboard with Nick. We did shiplap on a gable wall with Johnny and his crew, and tiling a backsplash. And Tyler, we did mud floors and crown molding. Like, it's not, it just because it's common everyday stuff doesn't mean that it's not spectacular and worth sharing, because there's a ton of information that's happening down in those little details of the day-to-day stuff, which you guys prove by talking to these contractors every week on this show and hearing about the processes.
I do have one more question for you.
Yeah.
Why do you have 2 split units on your wall?
Because one of my mini splits died and I got a replacement. and I, instead of taking down the old one, I just put a new one in a different spot.
That's amazing.
I wanted to ask right when we started, but I was like, maybe it's something else. Maybe it's not another mini split.
No, it's another mini split. It's my shop.
It's a hole to patch.
Well, part of it helped too that I felt like I didn't install the first one in a smart place. Like, it was too hard to route the line set outside, so when I put up the new one, I'm like, I'm just gonna put it right on the exterior wall and just go straight out. And then the other one,
I got a different point. It's like, I'm gonna remind the new one, this could be you.
Yeah, exactly. It's intimidation.
Exactly. If you break, I'm just gonna leave you on the wall, and someone else will be replacing you. Yep. I don't have any room, so this one's gonna have to last. I don't have any more wall space to hang a third one.
All right, man.
All right, guys. We'll talk to you later.
Take care.
See you, dude.
We do have another review this week. So we got one from Darak with a lot of K's.
Really?
And A at the beginning. Yeah. Having listened to the guys in the Modern Craftsman for some time, I've heard firsthand the progression of the quality and the content that this episode entails. These guys are the real deal. The authentic passion that these men share for the craft of construction, fine dwellings, and the education and awareness it brings to our industry is awesome. Each of the personality types brings a nice chemistry and balance, but their own open conversation represents a genuine dialogue from different vantage points. Not just a seamless agreement on the topic at hand. This podcast brings those across this nation and beyond together on a common platform to reflect the quality and care we believe in and stand behind. Further, an industry outsider could listen in to hear the thought, care, expertise, passion, successes, and struggles for those of us who care greatly about this industry and have to pull off beautifully constructed homes with what appears to be fluidity and ease. Love the variety of guests and trades businesses they represent. You're doing a great job. Keep grinding, boys. I know it ain't easy. That's a good review.
That is a good review.
I was also told after last week's episode that I am the diplomat of the crew.
Really?
Yeah.
Diplomat, huh?
That's what I said.
Makes sense.
Do you get license plates with that or what?
I think so. I Googled it to make sure I understood the definition right. I was like, am I? So I don't know. I want some more feedback on that.
What do we have for reviews? Do we need to hit a plateau soon?
Do we need to hit
690? Yeah, I think we can hit 700.
Okay. 10 reviews, guys. Do we have any hats left?
Yeah, we do.
All right. If we hit 700, one of those will get a free hat.
And I feel like, so I've talked
You know what? How many hats do we have?
I gotta check the inventory.
Roughly.
Hey, what's the inventory? So Patterson, where's Pat? What's the inventory we have? I love that.
All right. You know what? We'll do 5 hats.
Yeah, we could do that.
So we'll pick 5 random if we hit 700.
Yeah.
We'll send them out.
Done. I got them. If not, we'll have more made. Upstate merch, killing it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just talking to
They
him.
just started a podcast.
Yeah, that's right.
We pushed it. Yeah.
That's sick.
He's awesome. He's always supported us and the industry.
Yeah. If you guys don't, actually, I've seen recently, I feel like everyone's going through this like, all right, what do I got to do? I got to order shirts. So if you guys do need shirts or any brand wear, Dylan's been great. Oftentimes runs that special for contractors, or maybe it's always going. I don't even know.
I feel like it's always going.
Yeah, he's got a killer deal for the contractor shirts, but any of even custom stuff. Johnny, you've sent jackets out there.
Yep. I buy all my Carhartt stuff and send it out.
Yeah.
But even more so, if you don't have a logo, guys, he'll work with you with the artwork, and it's gonna be good quality stuff that you'll want to have represented on your back.
For sure. All right.
That turned into a plug. Didn't see that coming.
Oh well. See you guys. See you guys next week.
Thank you.